Town of Tignes welcomes the Tour de France for the very first time. The first hotel here was built only in 1906. That was 3 years after the very first Tour de France. This is a stunning area of the Alps. It's now green, warm and sunny to welcome the Tour de France, but for the riders this is going to be a very, very hard day indeed as they climb through the mountains. The fans are here supporting Tom Boonen. He's a sprinter. They'll actually be hoping he just reaches the finishing line, because for him it's a day he really doesn't want. There's the finishing straight for the lucky winner today. This is a major race today, over 3 first category climbs. In the last 100 kilometres they climb for 53 kilometres.
Well, if you look at the gaps of the riders we regard as being the major contenders, take out Alexander Vinokourov and that crash, the other riders are spaced over less than a minute, and it's a long time since I can cast my mind back over Tour de France history to see a gap like that at the end of the first week of racing.
Well, today is the day, I can assure you. Let's have a look quickly back at the start, which was only a few moments ago actually, and a proud day for the man in yellow, Linus Gerdemann, as he now leads off the Tour de France. Christian Prudhomme waves the flag, underway. All this happening about 15-20 minutes ago, and straight away an attack by Lilian Jegou after 1 kilometre forced 5 riders in the lead. There are the names for you as we get up towards the climb of the day, the Col de Marais. It's only 4th category. And there it is as we come up climb 1. These 5 riders just holding off the peloton, hard working as they are, nobody racing for the climb. Indian file over the top, Stefan Schumacher, Alex Efrakim, Marcel Seeberg over the top. 3, 2 and 1 points for them. News reaching us already off the back is Robbie McEwen, Mark Cavendish and Feylieu, 3 sprinters. Now they're on the second climb as we're now picking them up here. This is Schumacher setting the pace. They're still clear. We're talking of about 17 or 18 seconds, and the same 3 riders trying to move clear.
Well, Stefan Schumacher had a disastrous day yesterday for him if he was thinking about riding high in the standings this year in the Tour de France, because he's already 8.5 minutes behind. But today is a chance for him to try and put that to rights, and he's seen this as a big opportunity to try and turn the tables and come back. A lot of riders having a surprise ride on the first big mountain of the Tour, but this acceleration here by Schumacher has actually reduced that 5 men already down to 3. Efrenkin in second place there, the rider from Team Barlow World, and Stefan Ogier, the man who was the leader of the King of the Mountains classification before he relinquished that to his teammate Sylvain Chavanel.
Yes, it's Lilian Jegou, the man who started the break, who's just in our picture here. He's been dropped, and the tallest man in the race, about 6'5" tall he is Seeberg, Marcel Seeberg. He's also dropped. It looks as though Ogier is finding Schumacher a bit powerful today. He really has been stamping on these pedals. We've had an incredibly fast start, and as I say, things are not looking good for Mark Cavendish or for Robbie McEwen, who are still detached from the peloton.
Well, Jens Voigt is feeling rather angry today, and you can see Voigt on the front there stamping out the pedals, and in fact this pressure by Jens Voigt has splintered a small group off the front end of the main field. In that group as well, Egoy Martinez of Team Discovery Channel, and they're picking up the riders who are in that early morning breakaway of 5 one by one. Well,
it's going to be a real tough day, a real baptism of fire for Linus Gerdemann today. He'll know he's in that yellow jersey, as everybody seems to be in the mood to attack, and it's the second half of the day today. 3 first category climbs which will hurt everybody. Look at that. We started downhill. I think we started around 50 kilometers an hour today, slowed down a little bit over the 4th category Col de Marais. We're now on the Boucher Mont Chauvin, and then we have a little respite down to the first sprint of the day at Faverges. And this is Schumacher here, still surviving, but they're coming.
Well, I think everybody's a little bit worried about the final 100 kilometres of today's 165 kilometre stage, because of the final 100 kilometres, 55 of those kilometres.
As we now look out on the course here now, the split has in fact not been healed up. Hincapie is in it. In fact, he's been joined by a lot of riders here. Now you get a good idea of the relationship, and that is now a very, very hard-working breakaway. And the peloton, look at the splits in the peloton. It's almost panic stations back here. Everybody is scrambling. This is a Tour de France on fire right now, I can tell you. Look at the echelons forming at the front. They're scrabbling for the wheels. We are watching, Paul, a very, very aggressive Tour de France today, and everybody just trying to get in on the action.
Juan Antonio Fletcher on the front. You can see the pressure there that you can see as they move to the front. The team who has seriously missed out here this afternoon is Team Rabobank. They've been caught out by the severity of this attack, and the reason they're riding like this on the front end of the peloton, Phil, must mean that Denny Menchov has missed out. So too has Michael Rasmussen. This is almost panic that we're looking at here. This is no longer a bike race. This is a struggle to restore some sense.
Well, what it is doing, 4 sprinters are off the back of the race by more than 2.5 minutes. Mark Cavendish, Robin McEwen, Danilo Napolitano, Romain Feliu. And those sprinters, if they lose time like 2.5 minutes, may not rejoin, and elimination will loom high for those 4 as they go through the high Alps today. As we get down into the sprint at Faverges now, 36 kilometers into the race, we are absolutely flying. There's no respect at all for the climbs that come later on today. And Thomas Voeckler, what an effort to get 6 seconds time bonus.
I don't think it's the 6 seconds he's looking at here, Phil. He's looking at a long escapade in the mountains if he can. He knows that all of France will be watching on TV, and they know they will all know his name. He's a former national champion of France. Vaugrenard almost got to his slipstream, but as you said, Thomas Voeckler is not taking any prisoners at all here, and he's actually now started to open up the gap on the flat as the riders behind try to figure out what kind of tactics are we going to adopt, because we're still facing up to 35 miles of climbing in the last half of the race.
Well, I've watched the Tour every day for 35 years, and I never cease to be amazed at how hard these guys can pedal with so far to go, day in, day out. They are right up into the red zone already, 129 kilometers to go, and they've still got 3 first category climbs to come, and they just don't think about it. They are pedaling just about as fast as they can right now. Here's the sprint for Voeckler.
Well, Voeckler is looking, having gone through that sprint point at 40 kilometers until he gets to the start of the Cormet de Roseland. It's fairly valley roads, undulating for the most part, with a second category climb stuck in the middle. But I think, Phil, there's a bit of panic on board Team Rabobank here, because the way they're riding at the front, they're to such urgency, they realise they've really let the side down.
Well, the heart monitor on Marcus Berghaard right now is hitting 150. Ralph Grabschis is on 160. They're all out of the green and into the yellow. Next up is the red. This is a very pressured start today. Rabobank quite clearly have a plan here. It's got to be for Rasmussen and or Denny. Well, there's no doubt Rogers is here, Paul, and Hincapie is here, so Team Discovery Channel have got a plan. 5 kilometers to the top of the Tamier. The race, I think, wants chance to ease a little bit. The good news at the moment, because the 4 sprinters I've told you about, Mark Cavendish, Robin McEwen, Filier, Napolitano, they're catching up. I don't know how they're doing it, but they were 2.5 minutes back, and they're now just over a minute.
It's going to be a long, hard day for those guys to get themselves back into the main field. If they can just get to the back end of the convoy of cars, then they will make the junction. But sadly, Phil, if they do make the junction, it'll probably be just over the summit of this climb. It'll be downhill, and then immediately they'll be lining up to ascend at the Cormet de Roseland. I do think that if the Rabobank want to bring this race back together, they need to send 2 or 3 riders to the front group to get this organised, because you can't leave just one man trying to chase a 16-man breakaway group.
Well, I can tell you now, our computers must be listening to our commentary. He's put Michael Rogers in now. Johan Ivan Gutierrez, Michael Rogers, Jens Voigt, Mario Hertz, Ariata, Stefan Goubert, Jorge Azania, Verdugo, Stefan Schumacher, Bernhard Kohl, Christophe Lemervel, George Hincapie. There's
a lot of riders have a lot to gain from being in a breakaway like this, especially, of course, Michael Rogers, but also Bernhard Kohl, who was in that leading group yesterday. He's a Gerolsteiner rider, and he's only 4 minutes and 31 seconds behind the leader, Gerdemann. So it's going to be a tough day for young Gerdemann, his first day in the yellow jersey, and his team leader, Michael Rogers, quite clearly on the campaign to try and change that leader's yellow jersey to his. Although
it's not a very steep climb to Tignes, we do finish up at over 2,000 meters today, or 6,600 feet.
Well, they're looking into the faces, looking into the eyes of these riders here in this breakaway group. They are completely and utterly convinced now that this is the move of the day. They're all working hard. There are no more passengers now, and they've got to keep it like this until they get to the big climb of the day, the first big climb of the Cormet de Roseland. and what they want to try and do is start that climb with a 3 or 4 minute advantage. This is a very serious day for Team Rabobank, and I think they're starting to heed a little bit of the information, because there's a different rider come to the front. It's Juan Antonio Fletcher now setting up the pacemaking. But I'd have to say, Phil, I think there's a little bit of panic on board, and that panic is really because of the presence of Michael Rogers.
Well, Rogers will not be believing this is his best chance of the Tour so far. The first real chance he's had, and he got into the move. And if this succeeds, this will throw a whole new face on the Tour de France. He starts today 4 minutes behind his teammates, but that's not the point. He's all around within a minute of all the favourites, and this could really project him. 1 minute 29 they've got now as they come up towards the top of the Col de Tamier. None of these guys really interested in the King of the Mountain, so we may not see a sprint for the sun. With the leaders now, we're still trying to get this little group across, but they haven't caught the others yet. A group of 5 riders trying to reach a group of 18 riders. Looks like they may have given up here. Just looking at the way I think the flag is going up here, I don't think they're going to make it, Paul. They're going to surrender and go back into the pack. We're in the streets of Albertville. Tours had a stage finish here not too long ago.
Well, the important thing is, Phil, if you're in a situation like that, not going forwards and not going backwards, you might as well sit up and wait for the main field, because if you get caught in no man's like this and you waste a lot of energy, it's energy that you might require a little bit later on in the race. You must always bear in the back of your mind that this is not a one-day race, this is a 3-week race, and energy wasted on one stage is maybe better off used another day.
Well, there's all the riders from T-Mobile. They've got a dual job now. One is to try and hold the field back as Michael Rogers scurries away in that breakaway. The other one is to keep an eye on their current race leader. They also yesterday had a big coup because they took over the lead in the team event as well. And so they're wearing the yellow numbers today. They snatched that off Team CSC. And CSC won't like that, I'll tell you. But there they are, and they've also lost a rider today. Mark Cavendish having abandoned the race when he was dropped along with Robbie McEwen on the first climb of the day. They're into Albertville as well. This is a huge wide boulevard here. I don't know what they've done with all the traffic for the passage of the Tour. But they will now race along the flat roads heading for the climb of the Cormet de Roseland, 20 kilometers uphill.
Yes, and they've got around about 15 kilometers of undulations before they actually get there. We're going through the town of Albertville, where the sprint is coming up in around about 500-600 meters time. I don't think anyone will find those sprints very important at all, as George Hincapie moves to the front in the red, white and blue as national champion of the United States. For these riders, what they're thinking about is the 20 kilometers of undulations before the 20 kilometers of the actual.
Just watching the people here. We're in sort of a pedestrianised area here. There we are, 20 kilometres to the summit of the Cormet de Roseland. If you're a non-climber, I can't imagine what you think when you see that sign. And if you're a great climber, you must be rubbing your hands with glee. Well, Hincapie is in this move now. If they still got this sort of a gap over the top, watch out for Big George today. He might be delivering bells, because this is Michael Rasmussen, King of the Mountains the last 2 years. He's openly said he doesn't particularly want the King of the Mountains for a third time. He wants to win the Tour de France. And now there's got to be a reaction from the others. Levi Leipheimer, Valverde, Kloden, Vinokurov. They've got to watch this man.
Well, they have to watch this man, because he can ride across that 1.5 minute gap very easily, and he wasn't asking for any help at all there. He feels comfortable. This is very much his terrain. Going off the back of the group, the early leader of the King of the Mountains classification 2, Stéphane Ogier, number 142. This is now, Phil, going to be a very grippy race, and they've let Michael Rasmussen open up the gap. That's Marcus Burkhardt over on the right-hand side. But where are the other big names? They need to mark a move like this.
Well, there's a move by Euskaltel Euskadi ride. It might be Landaluz trying to get across. He moved up into second place yesterday. That's Ogier slowly falling back now. He'll just ride his own tempo. The early King of the Mountains on the flatter roads after we left Great Britain and into northern France. This is the tail of the peloton. It's going to reduce alarmingly over the next half an hour. Lac de Roseland here at the moment. And this is where the Tour de France has just reached. It's a false plateau. before we start the climb for the rest of the climb up the Cormet de Roseland. We now have 7 riders in the lead because Rasmussen and Rogers, Arroyo and Stefan Goubert have just pulled back Cole, Lemaivel and Collum. 7 men will go on to the final slopes of the Roseland together.
With him, Cyril Dessel, but I think he would like to see somebody else come forward and start nailing back this group, because this is a very dangerous group with Michael Rogers and Michael Rasmussen in it.
Well, looking down from the helicopter, there's only 6 riders in that lead group. There should be 7. So is that a rider who has been dropped back there? As he starts to look as though it might well be. Somebody has been left on the climb here. We don't know why at the moment. We were with them a few moments ago. There were 7. Looking right around this craggy little climb in the Alps. It is a really, really difficult climb. Still 3.5 kilometers to grind to the top. This will be the George Hincapie group. That's the second group on the road. The peloton is a long way back here just now with the big favourites in it. I'm just wondering who is going to win this year's Tour de France, because there doesn't seem to be a demonstrative figure in the race.
Well, nobody yet has taken the race by the horns and stamped their authority on it. Yesterday it seemed as if it was going to be Cees d'Epargne. They looked so strong yesterday with Alejandro Valverde, but he is not enjoying this climb here this afternoon.
The rider who's been dropped for the moment is Christophe Lemaivel, dropped or had a mechanical. That's a horrible sight if you're coming in the other way, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is. There you get a chance to see the long line of the road that these riders are snaking their way up. There, the little bit of gaggle of cars there is the front end of the main field, but this is a massive gap. And the main field this afternoon must be wondering, what are we going to do to pull ourselves back to Michael Rasmussen, Michael Rogers and Bernard Cole? It is actually, Phil, a very large group, and I think the reason they're riding like this, the big challenge is to try and stay in contact with as many of their teammates as possible so as not to be isolated down towards...
By Antonio Collum, he saw his team helper, got his drink at the top of the climb. We're nearly over the top and there is no sprint, and they've given it to Rasmussen. They salute the king of the mountains of the Tour for the past 2 years, and so it's Goubert in 3rd place there as they go over the top, and Cole in 2nd.
Well, with those points, Phil, 15 points as he goes over the top there, he's going to move up into 2nd place, right on the shoulder now of Sylvain Chavanel. A little bit of chaos a little bit further back as the teams try to move forward. That's Crédit Agricole, and what he wants to do is move forward to see where his man is, Christophe Lemaivel. Well, he's caught currently in no man's land. He was in that leading group, but now he's halfway between the leading group and this group of George Hincapie.
Here as the riders come round, another sharp left hand. I don't think Stefan Goubert is descending this with a great deal of skill. He's been wobbling all over the place here, and there's been a crash on the corner, and that is Michael Rogers, and someone has gone over. That is Arroyo. This is terrible. Rogers has hit the barrier. Arroyo comes back out. His bike is lodging on the barrier. Well, I don't believe this. Michael Rogers, the leader of the Tour de France, on the road. He's injured but looks okay. He needs a new bike. There it is. Well, Stefan Goubert hanging off the back. A bit of common sense, it seems. And the man right down in the trees, his heart must have been in his mouth, is David Arroyo. He comes back out. He looks okay. He needs a new bike, I would suggest, and Rogers here is needing a new bike. I think Rogers is okay. He just has the mechanic to check that bike out. Well, you never know around what corner lurks another problem for these riders in the Tour de France. Arroyo is away. There's the lead group, will be just ahead behind, in front rather, the yellow neutral car, who will have eased back. Arroyo slams his brakes on. He won't be too confident now as he goes on the inside of that chicane. This is amazing. And Michael Rogers has got to get up and running now. I can imagine in Australia, hearts are in mouths now for the man from Canberra, because he was riding to a yellow jersey at this point of the Tour de France. Our cameras now search along the wooded slopes here, the descent of the Cormet to Roseland, as we start now to get up to the front here and just try and bring some common sense again to the Tour. Paul, we're always worried about what goes on mountains. That was a heavy crash. I think Rogers is okay, and Arroyo trying to get back on.
Well, they're going to have to take a few risks, but when you've had an accident like that, you're a little bit windy for a while, and you can see just how technical this descent is, because Arroyo and the motorbike of the cameraman here are having a hard time getting back into contact with this race. Riders, in fact, can go down a descent like this faster than a motorbike and faster than a car, and our motorbike cameraman here is having to do an incredible job. In the confusion there, I'm not quite sure how quickly Mick Rogers got up and running, but shortly we'll have to find out. De Hauteville, the climb of Hauteville, the summit of which is at 28 kilometers to go. Michael Rasmussen now has not got anybody in this group who's prepared to help him.
Well, we're starting the second first category climb right now. It is 15 kilometers, takes the riders up to 1,600 meters. Now, this is a little adjustment and a little help, and nobody's looking, are they? As Leipheimer now needs to be brought back into the action. If the referee sees it, doesn't agree with it, of course, he will be penalised for receiving a little bit of the wrong help.
Well, this is a real professional foul here. They're taking maximum advantage of this. Now, if the race referees see this, they might not be quite as complimentary as we are.
No, they might not. They would disqualify him if they felt it was too much. This is the Team Cardiff, Team Discovery now. They've fallen back into line. They probably spotted they were on television as well. Oh no, there's the referee's car. If he spotted that, Leipheimer would certainly have got a penalty for that. But on the other hand, it's a mechanical failure. It's not a human failure. And that's when the referees normally step in with the penalties.
But Phil, that's a moment when the team manager has to take a calculated risk. It's a turning point in the race. He had to make advantage of getting Levi back into the race as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, it's slightly illegal, but he could always argue the fact that the saddle was at the wrong height.
Well, I think it was. As we look here now at the riders who can't face this next climb, it's a little bit ragged now, the front of the bunch here. The peloton was getting closer, got a little bit disorientated, and how close will they get now? They're facing up to real heavy roads now, not excruciatingly steep roads, but they keep kicking you in the face. If you are tired now, you are in big trouble before the end of the day, because really, in the last 42 kilometers, 33 kilometers of them, he can't hold the tempo as the rest of the breakaway is settling down into his own pace. He's a different rider now than when he was on the Cormet de Roseland.
Well, Cole has cracked as well for Team Gerolsteiner. He's coming back there with Stefan Goubert going up to the front. There is a big acceleration. It was by Michael Rasmussen, but he's been covered there by Antonio Colom of Team Astana. We're now looking at the leading group of 6 being reduced now down to 3 riders. David Arroyo is riding very comfortably, thank you very much, despite his crash.
Arroyo has done no attacking all day. He has followed every move. That's his job. He is the teammate of Alejandro Valverde. But look at the tempo of this man. He's going to blow the Tour de France all over the mountain now, because Rasmussen is in determined mood. He's got rid of Michael Rogers, and very soon, I would hazard a guess, he'll be on his own.
Well, they will now have to be hoping that Cadel Evans can wave the flag for Australia. Michael Rasmussen is coming to the top of this first category climb, and as he goes over there, Phil, in first place, he will now be the new leader of the King of the Mountains classification, just as he was 12 months ago.
And Colom and Arroyo, who can't work with him, at least gave him the honour of going over first. They're respecting a brilliant climber here. There's still one more climb to come to bring them to Tignes. Once they get to the start, it will be 18 kilometers again, and it kicks occasionally in places. The Tignes is right down the valley. We'll drop down to the right. We'll run the valley, which goes towards Val d'Isère. Then we'll turn away from that valley road and climb to Tignes.
Well, from the summit of the climb, they'll drop down into Sainte-Foy, and at Sainte-Foy, that is exactly where they start the climb. They'll see the banner at the side of the road, and not a very welcoming banner either. 18 kilometers to the summit of the climb and 20 kilometers to go to the finish of the race. This is the second group on the road, the group of Sergio Paulinho and George Hincapie. Now, this is Bernard Cole, and he appears to still be on his own, caught in no man's land.
Again, another brilliant ride by Cole here today. He's still there, and he's still the next man on the road behind the 3 leaders, I think, but I can't be certain where anybody is anymore. We now know that Rogers is out of the Tour, and that Rasmussen technically is now the Maillot Jaune virtual on the Tour, but only by 2 seconds over Arroyo, who is sitting in his... Arroyo has been cracked with about 2 kilometers only gone of the 18-kilometer last climb, and the other one's gone. So Rasmussen is now free to fly. The Angel has sprouted wings. He is blowing them away now. He's got rid of everybody. He's ridden these 2 limpets off his back wheel, and now Rasmussen has got the yellow jersey bunch at 5.5 minutes, and he's now going to try and take this race by the scruff of the yellow jersey. Well, Coulomb tried to hang on. He's 17 minutes behind in the overall classification. We've gone back. This is a counter move. And there is George Hincapie. And this from the peloton is Christophe Moreau. The champion of France is making a desperate move. And none of the favourites has tried to go with him. I don't know what they're doing. Because here is Moreau now trying to move forward. That's Stefan Goubert he's coming up on. Goubert would love to help his team captain. I don't think he can possibly have the legs now. There is the lonely figure of Michael Rasmussen, and he doesn't look like a tired man to me. Moreau has got up behind Goubert. Goubert will give him as much a turn as he can, and then Moreau will have to go on alone. Well, he's got to go on. He can't wait with Goubert. Goubert must be too tired here.
Iban Mayo coming across the gap. Alejandro Valverde wasn't going very well a little bit earlier on, but certainly is now. Cadel Evans. And what about Andreas Kloden there? Thank you.
Well, Cadel and Andreas, but where is Alexander? As now, this was the move. And in gain, Levi Leipheimer also has not gone forward. This is not good.
Vladimir Karpets is not going to win the Tour this afternoon because he is going backwards. There you can see a rider was in the breakaway very early on, Carlos Barredo. This was a big detonation by Christophe Moreau. We're going to go through here. There's a lot of turquoise jerseys. Look out for the one with the white helmet, because the one we're looking for is Alexander Vinokourov.
Well, this is the battle we expected and anticipated on the last climb to Tignes. Now they may have left it too late to catch Rasmussen, who's blown everybody off his wheel now. Here comes the Astana charge, and the noted rider's not here. Valverde, Leipheimer and Evans.
Evans is in front. Valverde is in the move that's gone off the front. There is Andreas Kloden. There is Alexander Vinokourov. There you can see the big move starting to come. There is the rider Michael Bogard. Levi Leipheimer is over there on the left-hand side. But when Christophe Moreau went, the next move that came across with Iban Mayo had Alejandro Valverde on his wheel.
So they are just ahead now. Moreau has gone again here now. They're trying to mark the attack. Mayo is the man doing it. Valverde is third wheel. So Alejandro Valverde, he was looking at the cars earlier, fooling us all. It looked as though he was in trouble. But now just take a look at this, and the others have got to get up here, otherwise the big boys are going to fly.
Alberto Contador is coming across to this group now for Discovery Channel. A nice move by him. He's got the acceleration where we didn't think Alejandro Valverde was flying this afternoon, but now he's riding very well defensively. The rider from Astana is Andrei Kashekin.
We are looking at the French champion, the first man to attack. He's got Valverde with him now. We're going back to the group here, and Vinokourov needs to get up there now. He's seen his teammate Kloden go. Valverde has gone up there as well. Leipheimer is back here. Cadel Evans has gone forward. They've split on the final climb of the day.
It's only 20 seconds though at the moment, but this is a great move by Christophe Moreau. He knew he needed to take the race by the horns. Valverde, look at Iban Mayo. Mayo today is riding like a man possessed. He's such an enigmatic character. He either goes up hills at 100 miles an hour or he can't even climb a railway bridge, but that's a good move.
I honestly think that Mayo has refound himself now, refound the great form he had of a couple of years ago since he joined the new team. He is on the team of David Miller now, Sonia Duval. He's got all of his confidence back, and he can climb. When he's on his good days, he climbs better than anybody else. Well, he set a huge target. It's a 5:29 up to Rasmussen. He sits at 4:26. If he could get up to Rasmussen, it would make a huge difference. And Alexander Valverde is under pressure now. They're all hitting him. Vinokourov, I beg your pardon, is right up there now. His teammate are trying to just keep him in position.
Well, there's the yellow jersey, the man who was the man of the match yesterday, Linus Gerdeman. He is suffering to stay in this group. There's a group was being left there by Alexander Vinokourov. And at the front here, Valverde is all over the road. Contador is over on the right-hand side, and coming through now is Popovic for Team Discovery Channel.
They're cutting through the chase group with the breakaways here. That's Jens Voigt is looking around, doesn't know what on earth is going on. Frank Schleck has made that split as well. And it's a long way back now, and it's in charge of Valverde. Leipheimer is there as well. He's a little bit handicapped now, Paul, because Contador and co have gone forward.
Well, that's not a problem. He can play the tactical game, because now he's putting the pressure onto Team Astana. Vinokourov in second place. In third place, Andreas Kloden. Fourth place there is Levi Leipheimer. Carlos Sastre is in this group. All of the big names now are having a little bit of a sort out on the slopes here of the climb up to Tignes. There, just a little bit further back, you can see Sastre, but Iban Mayo is riding well today. I don't think he's going to ride across a 5.5 minute gap to Michael Rasmussen, but he could replace himself high up in the overall classification, and this is the best we've seen him ride, Phil, in a couple of seasons.
Oh, absolutely. Look at that face. It's set fair now. His confidence is bristling out of his crash helmet there. Let me try and give you a situation on the climb. Rasmussen is leading on his own. Then behind him comes two riders he's dropped, David Arroyo and Antonio Colom. Then there is Iban Mayo. He's now in a group of, he's behind 6 riders who he's trying to pick off. And then comes this group, Cadel Evans, Christophe Moreau, Chidruka, Alberto Contador and Andrei Kashikin. And I've got a feeling that Schleck is in there as well.
Well, there you can see the work now being done by Astana, the two big pre-tour favourites in second and third position. Alexander Vinokourov right on his wheel, Kloden, and still everybody else prepared to wait and see how this race is going to unfold. But I think that's a great move there by Alejandro Valverde. He's seen the gap sitting on the back. The man who was the star of yesterday, Linus Gerdeman, must be wondering, this is what it's all about now at the Tour. Now I've got to try and stay in contact if I can. Chris Horner is in this group too. That's great to see.
Well, he's seen his team captain go forward. His job is done. But look at the face of Leipheimer there, concentrating. They're not losing the Tour, but they're losing time at the moment here as they try to hold that group in front. Interesting, isn't it, when you've got Astana riders up front and you've got the team riding like this just behind.
Well, they're riding for the top 2 men on the team, because Kashikin is not the team leader. The team leaders are the 2 riders in this group here. This is a great move by Team Astana to try and keep Alexander Vinokourov and Andreas Kloden in with a chance. They still, I think, are a little bit battered from their crash. We all forgot about the lone man at the front, though. Michael Rasmussen still riding an incredible solo raid. This is how we're used to seeing him in the mountains, on his own, riding away from everybody. What a great mountain biker. This is Iban Mayo looking over his shoulder to try and figure out just exactly what's going on.
Iban Mayo now back in the Tour de France with a vengeance, in new colours on his shoulders here. He's riding here his 6th Tour de France. His best finish came in 2003 when he finished the race in 6th place and won a stage at Alpe d'Huez. He's never really ridden well enough since then, but it looks as though he's back in the thick of it right now.
This group here will not work together. They're attacking each other one at a time. Not one of them is strong enough to go clear. They need to have the sense, they need to have the nous to organise themselves into a workmanlike group and put time between themselves and the yellow jersey group. Because in fact the yellow jersey group is working its way back up to these riders, and Moreau knows that, and he's going again with Valverde.
Well, Valverde's planned that Moreau is the man to mark. Every time Moreau goes, Valverde follows but doesn't help. Here comes the reaction again. Kashikin's having none of it. Mayo a little bit slow to react, but wants all the wheels in front of him. That's a good acceleration. Cadel Evans follows as well and shuts it down. Well, really, Valverde isn't very impressive today. He should try and help Moreau and crack him.
Well, I think that's what they need to do. They really need to form a coalition and work, because otherwise they're going to see the return of Andreas Kloden and Alexander Vinokourov. And these riders we're looking at, Phil, if that happens, will have lost a very good opportunity. And it may well be that they've lost any chance of winning the Tour, because I think Alexander Vinokourov is improving with every day after that nasty crash he had with Andreas Kloden as well on the day to Autun.
And there's still a long way to go, and the Pyrenees make these look like little hills. Believe me, this year in the Pyrenees they are vicious. Well, my computer here has blue smoke coming out of it at the moment. Colom has disappeared off it completely. I don't know if we've passed him, but Arroyo is on his own now. As we're seeing here, the possible return. No. Popovic is losing more ground.
He's been caught and dropped, but the important thing was that he did the job for the team. He got his man Alberto Contador into that move that went off the front there. He was an integral part of that acceleration. Moving a little bit further forward now, the yellow jersey is starting to struggle a fraction. He's got a teammate with him, pacing him. You mustn't panic, young man, at a time like this. Don't put yourself too much into the red zone. He's got time. He's got plenty of time over these other riders with him. He just needs to ride at about 90% of his maximum. Don't blow up, because if you do, you lose huge chunks of time on the final couple of kilometers.
He's got to be so tired after that ride he did yesterday, and he's been putting up with all this today. This has been a vicious stage. All of the riders have thrown the gauntlet down one way or another, and there's been some big surprises today in more ways than one. And the yellow jersey has uncoupled at the back. You're almost at the top, just 3 kilometers to the top and 5 to the home.
Well, this was the hero of yesterday, 24 years of age. It doesn't matter where they're from, they will cheer this man to the summit. They want him to stay in control if he can. But the way he's rocking his shoulders, Phil, this is not the man of yesterday. He's had a hard day. You know, that yellow jersey may well be a very special tunic, but when you have to wear it on a mountain stage like this, it really is good tactics to pace themselves back into this. Look at that, 4:11 to the Morrow group and 4:29 to the Vinokourov group. Vinokourov and Kloden are pulling themselves back into the race. Surely they'll stop those cars behind, and there will be a nice clean gap, and there they are now.
It's a very small select group. Leipheimer is in there as well. His day is being saved here by Andreas Kloden, a German on this Kazakh team, and boy, is this man riding like a train now. He could close it right down, and Morrow will thank no one, because he was doing his share. The rest deserve all they get, I'm afraid, and that is the arrival of Vinokourov, Kloden, Menchov, and indeed Levi Leipheimer.
Well, this again is going to be very strange, because we've had a massive battle and there's been absolutely no change in the overall classification, apart from the leaping up of Michael Rasmussen, because all of these other riders, Phil, today are going to finish very much locked together. No change at all. We're looking there at 5 kilometers to go to the finish, 3 kilometers to go to the summit. The neutral service car is stopped over on the right-hand side of the road there. I wonder if somebody had a mechanical incident. No such worry for this man, though, Michael Rasmussen. Listen to the crowd, they're going absolutely potty.
We are now inside the 2 kilometers. The hills are supposed to be over, but not quite. This is David Arroyo. He is still riding up there in second place. He was the man nearest, only 2 seconds behind Rasmussen overall. And if he'd have won, he would have been the leader. He still is going to catapult up the overall. He's just done a double take. I think he spotted the Morrow group. They're coming. And in the distance, under that water protector, will be the next group. Morrow has decided he's got to have some gain on the day. He pushes on.
Well, that's a brave man. He's now all of a sudden said to himself, forget about all this. I'm not going to go with this infighting. I've got a chance to climb up in the overall standings. I will not let Alexander Vinokourov come back today. I'm going to wear the tricolour of France with absolute pride. They're only 20 seconds away from David Arroyo, but only 20 seconds in front of Alexander Vinokourov. This is a phenomenal battle. And look at the job that's being done by Andreas Kloden. He used to do this for Jan Ullrich. Now he's doing it for the man who he didn't want to help a couple of years ago when they were teammates on T-Mobile.
Contador dodging in and out is also in this little group here, but all of these gains may be nothing, because the train from Astana is going to get them in their gun sights. They might yet shut this down and finish as a group. There won't be big gains now, but Contador says, I'm going to go. This guy is so classy.
Well, this is amazing. I've got a funny feeling that he may well have had a mechanical incident. I saw a car stopped and he's got a different wheel in at the back there, so he probably have had a mechanical incident. Well, he's going to try and ride himself back up.
How did he get back so fast? Maybe he's running on adrenaline and gone straight through the group. They couldn't counter his move. Arroyo could well be picked up by Alberto Contador here. There he is now, riding like a train.
Well, this man is a superb climber. You know, I'm absolutely certain that he had in the gallery there underneath the protective part of the course, he had a mechanical incident, and he changed his wheel very quickly with the neutral service vehicle, and he wants to ride himself back into this race.
Well, this is a free-for-all. It's not the end of the Tour de France today. This is only the end of the second day in the Alps. There's still an awful long way to go to Paris, but you can see how these riders go now. This is a move, and this is Carlos Sastre trying to put matters to right. Desperate moment in the Tour de France, this.
Well, Vinokourov has got difficulties now, Phil. He can't stay on the wheel of this acceleration, and finally Alexander Vinokourov is showing us that he is slightly injured. He's having a chat there on the radio, and he's trying to find his last little bit of rhythm.
Well, we're looking down on the lake there as we now continue this little final climb. They're dancing on the pedals here of Alberto Contador, but he's being joined here. That looks like Sastre's got through to him.
And just behind is Denny Menchov as well.
Now, this is a big move again, more time to be gained.
Well, as Carlos Sastre said this morning, to win the Tour, you have to be patient. You have to wait for the time to make the move. He waited to see when everybody else was going to start to fail, and then he made his acceleration.
David Arroyo's being caught by them now. They're racing for second place.
Well, I think Andreas Klöden was just told there to sit up and wait for Alexander Vinokourov, because he's turned off the pressure as he looks to try and pull himself up to Alberto Contador. This man is injured. You have to take your hat off to him. He's trying to stay in touch in the Tour de France this year. He can do it here this afternoon. He just has to get back onto the wheel of his teammate up there, Andreas Klöden. He is trying to keep himself in with a chance. And look, Klöden has sat up there. He's going to go back to his man.
Well, in all of this crossfire here, the one man who isn't appearing in any of our pictures, I hate to say it, is Levi Leipheimer from the USA. I think he's been caught at the back of all of this. It has been such an incredible race. The French flag shining in the face there of Christophe Moreau. Cadel Evans is still right there with them. Valverde's face one of pain now. So too is Mayo. He's no longer as cool as he was, a lot lower down the mountain. Frank Schleck as well.
2 kilometers to go now, a little bit further up the climb, and still on his own. It's Michael Rasmussen, Tête de la Course. There is the summit of the climb, Phil. That's what he's been waiting for, and he will be greeted now with a flat final 2 kilometers. All he's got to do now is just ride himself down to the outskirts of the lake here. That has been a phenomenal performance when you bear in mind the battle that we have witnessed behind.
You're right about Contador. He had a bad back tyre. He got back, and when he went by, Sastre jumped out after him. So too Menchov. They're behind this group at the moment and trying to get back on terms. And here they are here. And where's Contador gone? He's danced away. He's just gone again. He's trying to get back to where he was. There's been a lot of injustice in the race today, and Contador, at least, is trying to get back up with the Moreau group.
Well, he is a phenomenal rider. Johan Brunel said he's one of the most one of the riders in the world who has the biggest acceleration on the slopes of a climb. It's amazing the style that he has. He wants to get back to the group where he was. Christophe Moreau is riding better than I've ever seen him ride in his career. He's riding with confidence, but Iban Mayo too is in the best form of recent years, and he's looking for a place at the end of today's stage.
It is not a uphill finish. He's got to make any gap here, otherwise they'll run him down, and that's what he's thinking. A big effort now by Iban Mayo, Sonia Duval, David Miller's team as he tries to get away, but there's a lot of heart in Christophe Moreau. He's desperate not to let anybody get away. Nobody's helped Moreau. It's been a big move by him today. Evans has ridden in his slipstream, and so too has Valverde, and that's where they are right now.
Well, Valverde's at the back of that group. This man, Iban Mayo, is a phenomenal rider. This is the final kilometre now, Phil, for the man who has left this race. He went on the first big categories kind of the Cormet de Roselon, and he's been going ever since.
135 kilometres he's been at or near the front of the race today, most of it in the last hour or so on his own. Rasmussen now is approaching the finish. We've gone back to Mayo as the flags of Norway fly here.
Well, Cadel Evans was just behind there trying to make a move. He sat in the slipstream of Christophe Moreau for an awful long time, but he sees this as a chance to pull himself back a fraction of time as well. Little further back, though, Alexander Vinokourov is riding his own solitary effort, trying to keep in touch in the Tour de France here this afternoon. It's a very difficult ride for that man who's got stitches in his knees and his elbows, but as long as he doesn't lose too much time this afternoon, he will move well up into the top 10 in this race and still be the chance of a winner at the end of the Tour.
400 metres to go for Michael Rasmussen, then the clock will start. and I think he's going to have yellow as well. This has been like he did a year ago at La Toussuire. It's going to be even sweeter because a maillot jaune will await. It has been a ride and a half today, and Denmark have found once more a superstar of cycling. He's riding his 4th Tour de France. He's never worn a leader's jersey other than a King of the Mountains. Well, now he's going to lead in both competitions, because I think the clock later on will confirm he's in yellow as well as the King. This has been a ride, and he'll have scared the race out of their pants today. Tomorrow's a rest day, and he deserves it more than anybody else.
34 kilometers an hour. Phil, he knew how important the clock was. He didn't even think about the victory salute as he crossed the line there. He charged up to the line because he wants to make sure that he's got a very good chance of getting himself the yellow jersey. Iban Mayo has ridden away from everybody else. He's gone through the summit of the King of the Mountains there, Phil, and he is in 2nd place on the road, and he will be looking now at the last flat 2 kilometers. Christophe Moreau could not get anyone to help him in this group, and it looks to me as if Alejandro Valverde is missing.
Well, there is Valverde, but they slowed down and they still might get up here. They're wasting their time and they should be gaining it. Mayo will gain a little bit of time now. They won't pick him off. He's going to ride away into 2nd place here. This is the terrible sight of a struggling Alexander Vinokourov now. The team rider who's come back for him is his own captain, Andreas Kloden. Mayo has flown away for them and destroyed each other on the hills today. Mayo double takes. What happened to them, he thinks, because he only has to go downhill to the finish now to get to 2nd place. I think he might even give us a victory salute. I presume he knows that Rasmussen is still in front. Bit late, but better later than never to throw off the drinking bottle as he runs down to the finish.
Get rid of everything, every last little bit of weight. This is the best we've seen Iban Mayo. He was in 31st place at the start of today, but he's going to bounce up the overall classification this afternoon, and this man rode like a man possessed. You know, he was really the man who started all of that aggression in the group behind of Alexander Vinokourov and the rest, and he's done a phenomenal job. There's the group of Moreau, and just getting back on there is Alejandro Valverde. I think he had a little bit of a hard time. I feel a bit sorry for Moreau because he didn't find anyone to help him in that leading group, and he could have made a big difference today.
He'll be hitting the headlines in the French papers on the rest day because he's ridden a great race, but everybody overshadowed, of course, by Rasmussen. Mayo was just about crossing the line, I think, as we look here at what will be the sprint for 3rd. To make sure there have not been any remarkable comebacks, Iban Mayo is back to his old self here, the Basque rider, heading up towards the finish, but look at the clock. He's losing 2.5 minutes plus to Rasmussen. And Rasmussen, I think, is now feeling pretty good for yellow tonight. And that's odd because this is the yellow colours of Sonia Duval, who come up to the line now. A very determined effort, and every second counts. He's lost 2:47 to Rasmussen.
What a great ride by him now. Christophe Moreau, will they try and sprint him to the line? Because let's not forget there are time bonuses available, and Cadel Evans there is going for it, but so too is Alejandro Valverde.
Valverde's having none of it. He's watched his weight and he's going to snatch a consolation prize. He better move, because Valverde going for 3rd place here. More a point of honour, I think. He gets 3rd. Moreau, the hero, gets 4th, and Schleck 5th. Evans 6th, and Kashikin 7th, and Contador, where would he have finished but for the problem on the ride up the mountain? I think he comes home in 8th.
Well, a great ride there. There is Denny Menchov coming into the finishing straight as well with Carlos Sastre. But watch out, once we go to the Pyrenees, look at that. You can see he's so disappointed. A mechanical incident inside the tunnel changed his wheel there with the neutral service vehicle. Bit further down, we've still got the 2 riders from Astana, Andreas Kloden on the front there, and Alexander Vinokourov, who still, despite losing time today here, Phil, I think, is keeping himself in contact for a very high finish in the Tour de France. And there's Levi Leipheimer.
Yeah, you're right. Listen, the race isn't over here. This is the first big battle, but bodies change over the next few days, and so will the result. Leipheimer's in, lost 4 minutes to the winner today.
We're waiting now for the yellow jersey. Here is Oscar Pereiro, the man who finished 2nd overall last year. The man who crossed the line in 1st place, Michael Rasmussen, needs that clock to say 4 minutes and 42 seconds to the yellow jersey, and if it does say over that, he will be the yellow jersey and the King of the Mountains at the end of today.
But about 4:30 is the gap.
Well, 4:37, here's the yellow jersey, and it's gone past the 4:42. He's sprinting for the line, but sadly, it's not going to be enough here this afternoon. But what a brave ride by this young man who won the stage yesterday. It's a long way to go for this young man.
He puts his head down again. Yesterday, it was a feeling of absolute agony for yellow. Today it's agony and there's no yellow, but still he's right up amongst the leaders in the Tour de France, and he gets a day off tomorrow.
Well, he'll still probably be pretty much the leader in the white jersey competition for the best young rider.
We can show you this great moment of him coming home here. He was to come home 2 minutes and 47 seconds ahead of Iban Mayo, who will find himself in third place overall in the Tour de France tonight, and it was a superb moment. He said it's a childhood dream, and he doesn't know what else he could say. He really couldn't find the words to describe what he has just done, holding off the Tour de France for over all of the last mountains after breaking clear on the Cormet de Roseland. Well, he's now got 3 career stage wins. Last year he won at La Toussuire. Let's see if we can have a look now at the Honda ATV stage results. Here we go. Michael Rasmussen, 2:47 ahead of Mayo. Alejandro Valverde pulled out a rather average day by taking third in the end. Christophe Moreau, fourth. Frank Schleck and not Carlos Sastre for CSC, home there in fifth. Cadel Evans, sixth. Kashakin and not Vinokourov, seventh. Contador, if he hadn't have punctured, he'd have probably been a top 3 rider today. Denny Menchov, ninth. Carlos Sastre completing the top 10. Look at the time gaps, 4:13 to these boys. And then comes Subeldia, Leipheimer home in 12th place, losing almost 4 minutes to the winner. And completing the top 15, the rider who finished second in the Tour, Oscar Pereiro, he was down there too. Just looking down all this, Alexander Vinokourov, 19th, conceding 4:29 and suffering badly towards the last 3 kilometres of the day. Gerdeman, yes, he's lost his yellow jersey. He's finished 20th, but he's only a few seconds off the jersey, now being worn, of course, by Michael Rasmussen. I can hear the music. Bernardino on the right. He's been a man of the mountains. Well, he's seen a real man of the mountains today. Michael Rasmussen is on top as the stage winner of the Tour de France today. Let's have a look at the Michelob Ultra overall here. Michael Rasmussen, the new leader on the block, but only by 43 seconds from a very defined Linus Gerdeman today. Iban Mayo up into third, but 2:39 back. Valverde up into fourth, 2:51. Andrei Kashakin, fifth at 2 minutes 52. They're quite big gaps, but they're quite catchable. Cadel Evans is now in 6th place at 2:53. Moreau, top Frenchman, in 7th. Contador, where would he have been without the problem? But he still sits 8th. Frank Schleck 9th, and Denny Menchov completing there the top 10. And now he's back out on stage here, and the girls have changed their dresses to yellow. Well, they're different girls actually, but there we are, the Maillot Jaune. But when they woke up this morning, the Alps were still outside of the hotel bedroom window, and they couldn't have a more difficult exit from them today because they climbed the 2 highest passes, the Col de Liseron and the Col de Galibier. There are thousands of people parked on top of the Galibier to see just what will happen. I bet there's an awful lot of riders will be very happy when they get down here in about 4 hours' time. Here's where the others stand now. Alejandro Valverde, 4th, a minute and 18 behind. Denny Menchov, he's in 10th place. Carlos Sastre. The significant thing, look to the far right to the timings there. Apart from Vinokourov when he had his crash, the favourites are grouped very close together.
There's not really very much difference at all after all of the racing we've had and the 2 big mountain passes. All of those riders, to me, are still very much in the same time.
In the polka dot jersey, well, he's won it for the last 2 years. He says he's now concentrating on the yellow. He's got both just now. I'm wondering what his tactics will be today on this last day in the mountains. He's the specialist climber. Let's have a look at the standings there.
Well, he's got a massive advantage there. You can see 82 points to 42 points over Sylvain Chavanel, who led going into the big mountain passes. Linus Gerdeman fairly well down with 30. But today, Phil, the important thing is there are massive points available in this competition. First category climb, the Col du Telegraphe will give the first rider over there 15 points. The Col d'Iseran at the start is an outside category, and that will give the first rider there 20 points. But on the finishing line at the Col du Galibier, there are double points because that's the last big mountain of the day.
Well, the racing already underway now, and we'll pick up the action earlier today here. Michael Rasmussen dressed all in yellow as he rolls away from Val d'Isère. And as soon as the climb started, there was attacks. First of all, this was Calzati putting in a move from AG2 off. They did start the Col de Liseron with a great deal of respect, I think, but then Popovic had another idea, and he put in a very serious move.
Very serious move for Jaroslav Popovic, who many people talk about being a big star for the future. Here he came up to and caught Jose Luis Arrieta and decided it's time for me to go alone.
Maximum points for him, his first big King of the Mountain points of this tour, 20. Laurent Lefebvre followed him over, and Solar of the Barlow World Team, another newcomer in the Tour de France, he went over in third. Now, keep watching your television here. It's not for the nervous going down here. We are hitting speeds of around 60 miles an hour. That's an awful long way off the edge. Anyway, on the way down, he was chased by 5 riders. They have now joined him, including Gusev, the young rider on the squad, who is sitting there at the front right now. This is Popovic nearest us at the back. That's the situation at the moment. And just as we now go to live pictures, we're looking down here at the beautiful Alpine Towns, and that is not a good sight. Well, have they made it? Oh dear, and look at that wheel collapse, and the dog didn't seem to know what was going on, but I hope he's all right. He seems to be okay, and that looks like it's Marcus Berghardt there.
Well, he was fortunate enough to almost slow down just before he broadsided the dog. The dog actually didn't seem to be very concerned at all, but I hope that Marcus Berghardt is okay and he picks himself up. He was lucky enough, Phil, I have to say, to fall into the side of the road where it was just that little bit softer, but that's a scary moment. Have a look at this one more time. The riders have got a full lock on there. He's locking everything up, and he's completely destroyed his front wheel there. That'll be a carbon fibre front wheel. He rolled fairly well.
Well, he looks okay, Paul. That wheel really did fold up. It wasn't as if the Tour de France wasn't expected down here today, and they really should have taken more care of keeping that dog under control. He should be okay, and that's just happened as we join the live pictures, believe it or not. We're now looking down on the peloton. They are in pursuit of the leading group of 6 riders. It's a very, very hot day, and set to get hotter today as well. We've hit lucky with the weather in the Alps, that's for sure. A lot of the riders will not like the wind, which is actually quite strong at the finishing line.
The important thing to remember, though, the 76 degrees Fahrenheit is actually only in the valley roads. Once you go over to the summit of these climbs, like the Col de Galibier, the temperature up at the top of the mountain is as low as 48 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's a big chill factor on the descent, compounded by speeds that the riders cover at up to 60 miles an hour. And that's what we'll see a little bit later on. They're making their way down the valley. This was a very early move that came from Jaroslav Popovic. And the 6 leaders now have a 2-minute advantage over the front end of the main field.
Well, these are Jose Ivan Gutierrez, Mikel Astalosa, Vladimir Gusev and Popovic from Team Discovery Channel, Staff Clement and Benoit Vaurenard. Those are the men who are blazing a trail towards the start of the real big mountains, starting with the Col du Telegraph. Alps have just moments ago begun the climb of the Col du Telegraph, and already Thor Hushovd, one of the sprinters, has gone off the back of the big peloton. So this is the peloton profile for the moment, as we now look as though these boys are deciding it is time to start launching an attack. Well, this has happened rather early on, Paul. I wouldn't have expected these boys to try and break the break up like this from the gun.
Well, I think Astalosa probably felt that there were too many passengers. The accelerations are very difficult to respond to for some riders. Jose Ivan Gutierrez has taken his time to accelerate up to the back wheel of Gusev. Popovic has come across, but it's created a situation where there are 2 serious casualties in this group, because Staff Clement in the blue jersey of Bouygues Telecom, he's much more of a man of the flatlands. He's from Holland, and I think he's not enjoying these accelerations on the climbs, as too is Benoit Vaurenard.
I think that was why that they launched their attack. The immediate thought was get rid of the boys that can't climb and then just lift the tempo and try and go again. But having said that, Mikel Astalosa has really decided to climb away alone, and the Euskaltel Euskadi riders this year are looking a very good team.
Well, they're a great team. We've always appreciated the way they ride in the mountains, and this man now is attempting to ride completely and utterly on his own. The former winner of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. I think he's coming into some of the best form, Phil, that he's ever had in his career this year. We've seen him since the start of the season ride fairly well. It's still Miller on the front end of the main field, and Chicken Rasmussen is up there in 5th place.
Yes, he's moved right up there now. His name Chicken, by the way, was what the boys gave him because after a famous cartoon character which was a chicken in Denmark, and he says he doesn't mind the boys calling him chicken. Well, they're probably all very jealous of him. Chickens can climb like he can. I think they'd all like to be called chicken. This is the peloton here now, and Geraint Thomas was number 215. He's coming through the Alps, and that's the most important thing for this young rider from Cardiff. He is now feeling the Tour de France at its hardest here in the Alps. He had a real rough day the other day coming into Tignes, and he was getting a lot of cheers from all the people as well. But he's going to do a good ride, I think, Geraint Thomas. He might see Paris.
I'm a little bit surprised to see in this group. There is Eric Zabel riding comfortably. He just wants to survive through the mountains. Robbie Hunter just a little bit closer to us. But the leader of Team Gerolsteiner was in that group as well, Stefan Schumacher. So he's actually not enjoying his journey through the Alps.
It's his first Tour de France for Stefan Schumacher. He's not really. He's done really silly things. He's made big efforts at the wrong time, and he's paid the price in full later. But this is now beginning to be where they split up. That Paolo Longo of Barlow World, front left in the red. This little group looking as though they're not going that quick right now. 2:19 already beginning to come down, and Astolosa made an early move. This is the Col de Telegraph, remember. It takes us on to the giant Col de Galibier. This is an attack I don't think many people would have expected. Gear, pedalling quickly, revving around the corners. There'll be lots of encouragement for him as well as he snakes his way up to the top of this little stepping stone to the giant.
Well, he's around about 26 seconds ahead of the chasing group of riders, the riders who are just a little bit further behind him on the road. And that group is now 4 riders strong because Staff Clements has actually recovered. Now, here's a move again. Team Barlow World, Phil, every time that it's gone uphill on today's stage, have looked for the move.
Well, this looks like Juan Sola again putting in a move. He scored. He was third over the top of the Liseron. And it looks like he's looking for points here. He's got an interest in the King of the Mountains competition. It's his first Tour de France, Barlow World's first Tour de France as well. And they've always had a man in front of our camera lenses. Now, Miller has continued to set the tempo pace. He's not allowed that attack to disrupt his pacemaking for Iban Mayo. And again, trying to get this peloton to the foothills of the Galibier. Nobody reacted to this young man. I don't know whether anybody even knows him.
Well, I certainly did not know the name of this young man before he came to the start of the Tour de France this year. He's a Colombian rider, a very tall, slim Colombian rider as well, Juan Manuel Soler. But he's certainly not afraid at all of going out. He wanted a little bit of water there, but
not very good, is he?
At 35 kilometers an hour going uphill, it's not always that easy to take on board a bottle.
If the passers up don't realise that they've got to let go of the bottle when he gets his hand on it, otherwise it just drops out. Well, this is Michael Bogart now setting the pace and giving Miller a break while Miller drops back now. Well, his job done at the moment. He's got Rasmussen right behind him here. There's Miller now, straight to the back.
Well, Miller did a phenomenal job because he's reduced the numbers of riders in that group quite dramatically. And what he has done is he's started to actually isolate the leader, Michael Rasmussen, because a lot of Rabobank riders have disappeared from the group, while still, although they're not doing anything at the front end of the main field, there are an awful lot of riders from Team Astana. But it's obviously, this is the plan, you see, for David Miller's team, Saunier Duval, to put the hammer down early on and set something up for Iban Mayo later, just in time for Alexander Vinokourov. And I'm sure that as the race goes on, he will get stronger. This is the second group on the road, led by Jose Ivan Gutierrez. He's the rider on the front. The 2 riders from Discovery Channel, Gusev here and Jaroslav Popovic. They're at 25 seconds to the lone leader.
They haven't really lost a lot, but there's no doubt who's going to be first over, to the applause of the crowd at the top of the Col de Telegraph. Just a short descent and we're on to the Galibier, and just listen to the crowd here. Igor Astolosa is the man who gets the big points on the top, and a short descent. It's a very fast descent, and then he'll get stuck into the Telegraph. The Galibier, I'm sorry.
An acceleration coming off the front now from Team Lampre, trying to set themselves up. While a little bit further back, you can see the gap is not a massive gap now. It's going to be around about the 22nd mark as they cut the line, and it's 21 seconds for Jaroslav Popovic, who sneaked in there to get maximum points, just ahead of Jose Ivan Gutierrez.
Well, he won the top of the Col de Liseron. He's won second on the Telegraph. He'll be building his mountain points here, and nobody paying too much attention. Igor Kamano still pedaling on the front. It's interesting to note, though, that the yellow jersey has only 2 riders left with him now, Michael Bogart and Thomas Dekker. The only two teammates with him, I mean, haven't got onto the Galibier yet, and that might not all well.
Well, that's because of the work that they had to do on the Valley Road. They chased for an awful long time to keep that breakaway group pretty much in check. George Hincapie scuttling up the outside there. I think he'll be looking after the interests this afternoon of Levi Leipheimer. Leipheimer currently in a very good tactical situation because he's got two teammates off the front end of the main field, although he himself is promising that he won't unleash an attack until he gets to the Pyrenees. He feels that the slopes of the Pyrenees are much better suited to himself, but there's a move, and this is an acceleration that looks like Thomas Voeckler. It is Thomas Voeckler, and yeah. I think again, Phil, this is kind of a move for the television rather than anything else.
Well, he might be just trying to nip a few points here for the rider behind. I think it doesn't look like Lefebvre.
It is.
Yeah, it is Lefebvre, and Lefebvre is scoring in the King of the Mountain. So here he's giving him a nice long lead out, and he was gritting his teeth. Just might snick a couple of the last points over the top.
Well, that'll be important because if he does remain in second place at the end of the day, he will wear the leader's jersey, although the overall title currently is on the shoulders of Michael Rasmussen. You can't wear two jerseys, especially when it's over 30 degrees Celsius, so the yellow jersey will be on the shoulders of Rasmussen and the polka dot jersey on the rider in second place in that competition.
Approximately 3:10, let's say it was 3:10, to the premier part of the peloton. Even Sergei Ivanov there is shouting around his team leader Vinokurov as they go through on the tail of the field. Ilkka Kamano's pacemaking now. Now he's been replaced at the back where Miller was. He of the Alps, the lead is on it, the brakes are on it, and it looks like the peloton are about to start it. They are absolutely flying through the town of Valois. This is the main group of the peloton. All of the favourites are here, so there's no complaints from them. They've read it right. There's nobody left behind. They're about to see the sign, which will say 18 kilometres to the top, and then all the principal people in the Tour are on the climb.
Yeah, but I think the dangerous thing for Michael Rasmussen is he's actually becoming very isolated. His team are doing a lot of pacemaking on the front end. The riders who are left there, Thomas Dekker and Michael Bogart, are doing so much work that they won't be a lot of help. Here at the front, Mikel Astrolosa is about to be caught by the, well, it was four chasers a few moments ago, but you can just see that dropping off the back there was the rider who was with them, and that is Staff Clement.
And in fact, this is Gusev who's come up, isn't it?
Yeah, this is Gusev. There you can see Gutierrez in the red and black jersey of Kees Depagna, and just on the back there is Jaroslav Popovic. Staff Clement, the Dutch rider on Bouygues Telecom, Phil, has all of a sudden, because of the work that's been done here, found it just a little bit too difficult to stay in contact on the early slopes.
Well, he was in trouble on the Telegraph, and he goes over the top in third place, so he found his second win there, but it looks as though the initial charge on the lower slopes of the Galibier a little bit too much. So we've got four riders, four very good riders, four very good climbers, and they were thinking of long term here, not just of getting to the top of the Galibier. And look at this, an immediate attack here from Gusev, this promising young man. There is Clement in amongst the cars. He might get back.
Well, I'm not quite sure of the tactic here of Gusev, and he's actually set something up for Gutierrez to counter. He's actually annoyed the other riders in the breakaway group. So now Jose Ivan Gutierrez says, I'm not having any of this attacking lark here. I'm going to take off on my own. I'm going to leave you guys up to your own devices.
Well, as we see, the rider is now on the climb. The Welsh flag getting in on the picture there, and that's for Geraint Thomas, who is in this race in the field at the moment, struggling but surviving well. Now, are they going to see some common sense and just ride sensibly? If they keep attacking each other like that, all they'll do is get wiped out.
Well, exactly. In the early part of the Col du Galibier, if they use their sense of fraction, they can actually work together and keep that advantage they've got over the main field, which is still holding on at the 3-minute margin. They need to share the pace-making ride for about 200 meters or so on the early part of this climb, and then allow somebody else to set the pace. You can see how difficult it is at the back, and poor old Iker Kamano there, who did all of that work, is now struggling just to stay in contact, where Benoit Vaurenard, who was in the early breakaway, is now back with the rest of the group.
Well, Kamano was off. He got back on, so maybe he's going to try and get his second win as well. The gateway to the Galibier, we know the crowds are big on the mountain. It looks like they're going to escort them all out of the town of Valois as well. Massive crowds. The Tour de France this year was given a great start in England with 3 million spectators in 2 days, and they've stayed loyal to the event all the way around France. Massive crowds every day of racing.
He's still caught in no man's land.
Well, I'd totally forgotten about him. He went over the top in 6th place, but he's now joined the leaders. Our cameras never saw this, but that is a superb ride by this first timer in the Tour. We never had a camera on him. We knew he'd gone over the top of the Telegraph in 6th place, and that's a good attitude to take, isn't it? Big effort by Solar, straight through anybody coming. This will lift the tempo up, I would think.
This will certainly lift the tempo up. This rider is a Colombian rider. They have absolutely no fear of the mountains at all. You can see Popovic felt that one has accelerated. This is the way to do it. Take him by surprise, and immediately he comes in contact. He goes straight down by on the right-hand side. Popovic, I think, a little bit caught out by that move there, but all of a sudden he thought, oh, this is not too bad for me. It's a great ride by the Colombian, and the thing about Colombians, Phil, in their own country, they have climbs that they race up of up to 40 kilometers in length, but this has put a nail into the coffin there of Vladimir Gusev.
Well, Juan Mauricio Solar Hernandez is his full name, and he's now just got himself into a rhythm here, and these guys must have said, who is this man with the long, thin legs? As we look here, he tries to snatch a bottle, and Solar has come up from absolutely nowhere, 6 over the top of the Telegraph. He's joined the front runners, and he's split them up, and now he's causing some pain. This could be the first, or let's say the next surprise of the Tour de France today. We now have 4 leaders on the climb of the Col du Telegraph. Just arriving is Solar, and he split away everybody else. There's a nice piece of artistry work there, but the big news is Solar has joined Gutierrez, Popovic and Astolosa. Not Gutierrez, Gusev, Popovic and Astolosa.
Well, the main field are just allowing this to happen currently. They maybe need to take a little bit of attention to Juan Soler, because he in fact started the day in 27th place. He's also a rider who last year won the overall classification of the Circuit of Lorraine, which is an indication that he knows how to ride a stage race. And coming from Colombia, Phil, he won't be very much worried about the altitude at the summit of the Col du Galibier, because at 2,600 meters, that's where most of the climbs start in Colombia.
That is absolutely right. He'll be very much at home here. He comes from altitude. He knows all about this, and he started his move up to the front. And he will have caught one or two of these riders off guard, Paul, because he's never been in the Tour de France before. He's never distinguished himself yet. They may not really know much about him.
Well, in the early part of the year, he actually finished 2nd in the Milan-Torino race, and that wasn't a bad performance, and he's not worried at all by this, and he keeps seeing the acceleration. He will take advantage of the steepness of the climb once we get up towards the summit. But still, if these riders want to survive, Phil, I think they need to stay together as a group of 3 or 4 if they can, because it's a long ride down from the top of the Galibier, 37.5 kilometers from the summit of the HC climb Galibier down to the finishing line in Briançon. We're halfway up the climb now with about 9 kilometers to go to the top of this 18-kilometer climb.
We're looking at the 4 members of the breakaway now. Gutierrez, Astolosa, Solar, the rider from Colombia, who has flown across the gap to the leaders and has joined them here and is splitting them up, because he's now put Astolosa in trouble, and he was the man who was setting the pace until Solar, 6 over the Telegraph, sprinted to the leaders, and he's contented himself now with breaking them up. Gutierrez also gone.
Well, Gutierrez has been a man in almost every serious move since the start of this race. I think he was tipped as the man to go into the breakaways for Team Case d'Epargne. He will now, I think, Phil, get into a rhythm of his own and wait and see what happens when his big man, Alejandro Valverde, comes forward a little bit later on, because I feel it may well be Valverde's day here this afternoon, as Soler, as you said, Phil, could be the man to create the massive surprise in this Tour.
He's never won a bike race as a professional. Baller World, obviously, he's impressed the management there, because they've signed him up and put him in the Tour de France. And look at the concentration of the climber from Colombia. Most impressive the way he came up to the leaders. He, as I say, gone over the top of the Telegraph in 6th, and our cameras didn't follow him. But then he just came up and he completely blown this breakaway apart. The thing is, he needs to have a good rhythm, and he's riding to his own rhythm here.
Well, this is the front end of the main field. You can see still it's the orange jerseys on the front here of Team Rabobank. They're going to do an incredible job to try and keep their man protected for as long as possible.
A trail through the wind, and he's just not interested in any help from anybody. I think he'll crack the whole field here.
Well, that's a big thing for him to move this afternoon, and it's an amazing thing when a rider like this comes from Colombia to the Tour de France for his first attempt, and he has absolutely no fear of the height of these climbs. The majority of his racing in Colombia was done at altitudes in excess of 3,000 meters, and that's why he will take advantage of the rarefied air. But I have to say that the rider from Team Discovery Channel, Jaroslav Popovic, is doing a great ride, and in fact, looking a little bit further back, Soler has said goodbye.
He's just cracked him. He kept the rhythm on, and he's cracked Popovic, one of the big riders on the team. Just look at the acceleration here, and we've got the best witness on the Tour de France, because standing to the car at the back is the president of France, Nicolas Sarkozy, watching this big battle on the Galibier, and the crowds are going to get bigger and bigger now.
Watching the big show, because this is a massive big show. Popovic probably sensibly, Phil, not responding to that acceleration, just own comfortable tempo, and hopes he'll catch him on the descent.
The battle of the Galibier is in full cry now, and one man, a Colombian, is showing them all how to tame this alpine mountain. And this is a problem for Christophe Lemervel. That's bad luck.
Well, he's broken his rear derailleur there. You can see that big problem. He's going to have to wait a fair amount of time for his team car to come up alongside him. The derailleur very often happens. There's another move here coming from Cees d'Epargne now.
Well, this is it. They've waited till the steepness of the climb, and now the favourites are ripping into the Galibier.
Alejandro Valverde has said, I like the Galibier, I'm going to make a move here. Michael Rasmussen takes up the chase behind him. So too, you can see, coming alongside is Cadel Evans, and Cadel Evans has got some power in him this afternoon, and he's going to have a move. There is Alberto Contador moving up. Iban Mayo, Levi Leipheimer, the big names are moving forward.
This is it. This is the moment. All of the favourites have gone together, and Cadel Evans, the man they keep saying only follows, is the man leading right now. Cadel Evans is testing them today. Valverde started it. There's a little split, and the Astana boys are back there. Kloden and Vinokourov have not answered the call of that little split.
Well, they need to be very attentive, and I know the big favourites, Phil, they're very worried about the situation around Alexander Vinokourov. They know they need to get some big time between themselves and him before this race goes down to the Pyrenees. A lot of riders swinging off the back now. Javier Florencio, the Spanish rider from Bouygues Telecom, trying to stay in contact with this group. What the riders from Astana must do is gather their forces now and try and slowly pace Alexander Vinokourov back into the group. Great job being done there by Johan van Sommer, and I'm amazed to see him going over these mountains.
Well, he's seen his man Evans get up into that leading group now, and this now is a battle of the big men. Sergio Paulino is in that second group, the yellow jersey below, itching, but no reason to go round Valverde. And Evans has dropped behind the yellow jersey, but these boys, wait till they sweep here. This is the Galibier towards the summit with the crowds now, and that the big boys are testing each other once again.
Well, this is Iglinski. There's the leader of the young riders jersey there, going backwards. That was the man who made that massive big escape. And here is why the attacks are going on, because Alexander Vinokourov, Phil, has not been playing with us. He is suffering on the slopes of this climb. He's got Iglinski with him, and Iglinski will try and pace him back into the race a little bit later on. Gerdeman there in the white jersey is learning how hard the Tour de France can be.
Patrice Algon, number 107, himself quite a good climber, also caught in the split here. They've wiped out to the lead of Juan Mercado. They've brought it. When he looks over his shoulder and he sees these boys, he'll know he's in the hot end of the Tour de France, because these boys are going to turn the gas on now to put Valverde behind. And the yellow jersey of Rasmussen is right there. They pick up a tailwind, judging by the American flag for the moment. Valverde joins Mercado, then Rasmussen, Cadel Evans, Contador, Leipheimer. They're all there, and I think Kloden is there.
Well, Kloden looked to be the tall, Longelaine figure of the Astana rider, but what a great champion move by Alejandro Valverde. There is Kloden just moving through. There is Christophe Moreau. There is Carlos Sastre. They're all here. Iban Mayo, all of the big names. The one big name that appears to be missing is Alexander Vinokourov, and I'm quite convinced, Phil, that is why they're moving like this. There is Andrei Koshekin on the back. Vinokourov is not in this group.
No, he most certainly is not. David de la Fuente is here, third in the King of the Mountains last year, and now just pushing behind them there. Staff Clement also gone back on the far left of the screen. He stepped aside from the tornado blowing along the side of the Galibier now. Valverde is setting the pace. They're testing each other, but as one unit, they're driving away from Vinokourov.
Well, this is the difficulty at the back, and now you can see another man who is having a bit of a problem there is Andrei Kushekin, and this is all the pressure on the front end of the main field. David Arroyo slipping back as well, as you mentioned, but I think all of these riders, Phil, are a little bit concerned about Alexander Vinokourov. They know there's 110 kilometers of time trialing left to go in the Tour de France, and they want to get as much time as possible over the Kazakh rider, because they know that he will ride himself back into form in this race. They know how tough he is. And of course, Alejandro Valverde remembers what happened to him last year in the Vuelta a España.
But don't forget, there is still some 30 kilometers, no less, of time trialing. A little bit more than 30 kilometers down to Briançon. As they make the run down, will be at the 122 kilometer point here. So it'll be 37 kilometers to go, mostly downhill. Vinokourov will muster his troops around him, but it's going to be a great pursuit now, because Sony Deval have got the top two climbers here, De La Fuente and Iban Mayo. Here's the white jersey of this young rider who's second overall. He could be losing his second place now. It's all happening on the Col de Galibier today.
Man though, because he hasn't got the accelerations, he's got a teammate alongside him, but sitting on his wheel is the man who finished second in the Tour de France last year, number 11, Oscar Pereiro.
His job though now is to sit there, and if it's to be, go down the tubes with Vinokourov. He can't help him get back up to Alessandro Valverde. This is the select group, and here comes another attack up on the inside now. And this is the sort of move we expected.
Well, this is Alejandro Valverde once again. Look at that little crucifix around his neck, bobbing in the wind with the acceleration, and Iban Mayo is the man trying to come across to him. This is a good move. There is Cadel Evans and the yellow jersey of Michael Rasmussen. I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen Alejandro Valverde ride like this.
They've caught Mercado. They caught him, and they've now dispatched him by another acceleration. Evans has clawed his way back with Mayo and De La Fuente. And behind, they're all coming back, but there's not so many now. I think Leipheimer's there. Moreau is trying, but he's a bit slow on the reaction at the bottom of our picture.
Well, Moreau at 36 years of age probably doesn't have the accelerations on these climbs that the younger riders have. He has to just be nice and calm and collected and pull himself back into this group, and he's doing that. They're singing at the back of that group, bobbing along there. You could see Alberto Contador, and they've now started to get rid of this man, and this was the man that they were really worried about, Andrei Kushekin. He's slipping away.
And he was sitting in 5th place overall.
Menchov is gone.
Menchov is trying to go. He's 5th place overall because Shakin is in trouble. Denis Menchov, he's doing a lot of work for his team leader in yellow. Might be paying the price here. 3:06 was slowly Vinokourov's group is losing ground. Well, who is going to be next to throw something in here?
They've only lost 30 seconds to Alexander Vinokourov at the moment. He won't panic. He's got a teammate alongside him. There's still a long way to go to the summit of this climb. And if you're an older rider, you dare not drag yourself into the red zone, because if you do that, you will not recover. He's riding right now on experience. Clodin is still in contact.
The Galibier, but they are the favourites. They've now put another favourite in trouble, which is Denis Menchov, just at the bottom of the picture. Vinokourov is here in this group. I don't think they're opening big enough gaps. I think they will all ride back, but the leaders have shown the colours today.
Well, Team CSC are struggling too, because looking at that group, I couldn't see number 31, and Team CSC may be having a little bit of a problem with their man, Carlos Sastre.
Looking at the back of the champion of France, he's just about hanging in on this wall that's taking place now. He's only just on the back there of Iban Mayo, who's on the front of the group. Moreau fighting his way back in, the Breton flag there. A little bit limp at the moment, so they're in a sheltered part of the climb. Well, I think for now we can forget that Cadel Evans is not a follower, because he's been sharing the work and he's gone again.
Well, he's gone to the front. They've now seen their opportunity to put time between themselves and, of course, Alexander Vinokourov. Actually, just at the back of that group is Carlos Sastre. He's 3 from the rear, so he's comfortably in there, the leader of Team CSC. But Valverde is the man, Phil, who is really trying to nail everybody down here this afternoon, looking over his shoulder to see what sort of damage he's doing. Iban Mayo is in 4th place. Contador dancing all over that machine, is trying to stay up there as well. And Levi Leipheimer, I have to say, is actually looking very comfortable.
They're all just taking the pain that Valverde is throwing at them right now, and if they feel they might get him, they'll hit him. They're all conscious of the fact there's a long way to the finish downhill, and they know that whoever they drop at this point should rejoin on the chase to Briançon. And I wonder if Moreau remembers that, because he's now coming back again. There's the two climbers. The work that David Miller did today has set up his two top men for a likely stage win. The guy in orange there for T-Mobile trying to just bring this team back into the race after all of their bad luck of the previous 2 days. And that's Kim Kirken, and he's climbing very well today.
Well, there you can see him in the pink jersey just at the back there, but this is a massive battle as we come up towards the summit of the Col du Galibier. The sad thing is, though, that there's 37 kilometers to go to the finish line in Briançon, and unfortunately the last 1.5 kilometers are up to the summit of this climb here in Briançon. It's going to be very difficult, but we've forgotten about this man, Juan Maurizio Soler. He's riding alone at the front of this race. Never mentioned his name before the start of the Tour de France, and now all of a sudden he's...
This is an attack here now as we start. This is
Contador.
Contador, who has gone clear. An attack by Alberto Contador, 40 kilometers from the finish. This is the rider who was frustrated on the road up to Tignes when he got a back wheel flat tyre when he was with the leaders. He got a tyre change, swept through the remnants of the chase punch and almost rejoined the leaders.
He's just gone past his own teammate there, Jaroslav Popovic. This man, Johan Brunel, said to us, Phil, at the Dauphiné Libéré, I have rarely seen a man who can accelerate on a climb like Alberto Contador. Cadel Evans has seen the danger there. He's grappling to get himself across. He's seen this as a very important move, and Michael Rasmussen has not followed the accelerations.
I don't think he can. It's not his suited way of climbing here. He's going to have to climb his way back in, and he's got Leipheimer on his back wheel, who can't help him now because Alberto Contador, his teammate, is racing up towards the leaders.
Well, on this wheel there, the wheel of Levi Leipheimer, in fact, was Jaroslav Popovic as well.
And just look at this now, a terrific effort by Cadel Evans here, indicating to us, Paul, this man could win this year's Tour de France. He's a great time trialist, and he's going back up to a man who is an absolute Tour revelation. Alberto Contador's never ridden the Tour before. He was almost dead with a serious head injury. He has a plate right over the top of his skull. And now Contador saying, you've caught me, work with me.
Well, that was a little sign there. He moved his finger around in a circle and said, come on, let's work for this. We've got a gap now over everybody else. If you want to win the Tour, mate, you better come with me, and you had better work together. It's still around about 2.5 kilometers to go to the summit of the Col du Galibier. Cadel Evans is all over his machine. He saw that move coming there. He knew he had to stay with it. And looking back, that's a nice, serious gap opening here. We're looking at around about 30 seconds by the time we see the next group of riders appear. Valverde, Rasmussen, Leipheimer, Popovic, Iban Mayo, and the rest still in there as well. Dangerously is Andreas Kloden.
Well, and this rider trying to still get back on terms. If he can just hang in here, he will get back on terms on the way down. But you know, if those riders can reach the Colombian rider, they could work their way to victory here, and that would be a terrific coup for both Contador and especially so for Cadel Evans.
Well, it's a big move, but it's a tall order to ride all of that distance right down towards the finish on your own. Rasmussen now seems to have recovered a fraction. He was probably taken aback by the accelerations there a few moments ago, looking over his shoulder, trying to figure out, what do I do next? I've got no teammates left.
He's hurting.
Everybody, that's Valverde.
He's hurting, I think. He's made his moves, it didn't work, and he's been outnumbered here.
Well, moving forward again, this is Cordeau, the young rider from Saunier Duval. He's been a big revelation here this afternoon and of this season as well, as he moves up towards the front end of the race. He's thinking about his own man, Iban Mayo. Contador's not thinking about anything except he wants to get to the front of this race. Flick of the shoulders to Cadel Evans. Come on, mate, you want to win the Tour, you have to work for it. I'm not going to drag you to the summit of this climb.
Well, Contador doesn't speak any English. He speaks only Spanish. So goodness knows what he would say to Cadel Evans. But they are, I think Cadel was hit so hard there, he couldn't help him, Contador. And if he tries to work with Contador, he might find Contador will leave him. There is the lone leader, Juan Mauricio Soler Hernandez, the new star on the block from Colombia, came from the back of the race to take them all and shake them out and ride alone up the Col de Galibier. Thank you, the Col de Galibier. And this, a wild card team, and this man, his first Tour de France.
He got the legs this afternoon, and he's putting Cadel Evans in difficulty.
That's what
Cadel Evans cannot follow the pace of this young man. He tried to get him to work with him, and he saw that Evans didn't have the speed that he's got on these climbs. He said, right, I'm off.
Well, Solar is the man up front. He has distanced Cadel Evans, who tried desperately to mark him. Everybody is saying, you know, especially the Spanish, that Contador can win this Tour de France. If you're English, the Australians are saying Evans can win the Tour de France. Well, I guess they both felt they could. That's why they went together.
Well, the big problem is this Tour de France is very difficult to predict. We're still looking at a long way to go to the finish line. We've still got the Pyrenees to go after we finish this Alpine stage today. But these guys have been absolutely slammed with these accelerations. Hats off, though, to the man in third position there, Alejandro Valverde. He rode like a true Trojan, trying to ride himself back into the group again. The rider here from AG2R is Francis Moreau, and he's really using all of his experience, I have to say, this afternoon.
Well, Gusev has been dispatched backwards from that leading group now, and that could be a stepping stone for Moreau to try and get up there. Look at the gap. There's Gusev, and he's been passed by Moreau now. So the young man on Discovery Channel is great there. He's riding into the headwind, which will make it that much harder. The same headwind which has cracked Cadel Evans, but he's still up front. Although he's not riding now with nursing him here, just keeping the tempo he can happen. He would love to close it back up to this group, as Popovic knows if he can just stay here, he should rejoin over the top. Here to the summit comes the man in charge now. Look at that crowd clapping all the way, and it's a Colombian rider in his first Tour de France who conquers the Col de Galibier. Juan Mauricio Solar is over the top. Now the long way home to Briançon.
And that's going to give him a nice 40 points. And now just check out this descent. This descent is going to take this rider down to the top of what is known as the Col du Lotheret. If you take a right-hand turn, you go to Alpe d'Huez. But fortunately for these riders, they will take a left-hand turn here this afternoon and head down the valley towards Briançon. But look at these. This is almost a death-defying descent. This bobbing figure here is Alberto Contador. In front of him, he's got a teammate, Jaroslav Popovic, who is lying in second place on the road. We haven't got a camera to stay with Jaroslav Popovic, but we are keeping a very close eye on this man, Alberto Contador.
Well, Contador now confirming what he showed us on the road to team, and he had a flat tyre when in shooting distance of going with the leaders over the line. He even nearly caught back up to them and dropped everybody else, including the favourites in hot pursuit. Today he's been free to fly. He is a great discovery now as he continues to climb here. We think in third place. His teammate Popovic is somewhere in the crowd line. We'll probably see him very shortly go over. The descend like stones now, and if they can contact Juan Solar up front, they might not see these guys before the finish.
Well, this is a great team move here this afternoon. Johan Brunel has had it fairly easy winning the Tour de France on 7 occasions with Lance Armstrong, but he is a master tactician as well, and that's why this race was set up like this afternoon. Gusev and Popovic were sent up the road to lay the plans down for either Levi Leipheimer or Alberto Contador to go clear. Alberto Contador has seized this chance with his incredible acceleration on the Col du Galibier. Now these two men must get down the first couple of kilometres where it is a very dangerous descent. Once they've got down 2 or 3 kilometres, Phil, as Cadel Evans goes over the top there in 4th place, the road straightens up a fraction.
It is a very difficult descent, as Paul says. Now they've got to be careful here, but they're desperate. They've got the time gaps. They want to hold them. Here comes Valverde, trailed by Kloden and Leipheimer. Leipheimer's sitting there pretty now, 2 teammates ahead. He's got every excuse in the world just to follow and use no effort. Iban Mayo is still in there, the maillot jaune of Rasmussen. The only man of note who is missing, really, is poor old Vinokurov. Look at the face now of the rider on the front, as it's Valverde who goes over in 5th place.
Well, there's going to be a little bit of a sorting out in the overall classification this afternoon, but these riders now have got a serious chase to
trying to race up to these guys, and they may not see them till the showers.
Well, Valverde is giving everything. He's not too worried at all about this. He's happy because he's got his teammate in the group, Jose Ivan Gutierrez. And remember, Gutierrez was one of the riders who went into the early move of the day. Right in front of them now, the 2 riders from Discovery, and it's Michael Rasmussen in person, the yellow jersey, is going to nail back the gap.
Well, look at this. The yellow jersey is bringing back the Discovery tandem, and they're only about 55 seconds behind the star of the day. This is real gritty Tour de France cycling at its very, very best. Now, it might help if they catch those two. There might be a slowing, and the others could come back.
And that will be the time when Levi Leipheimer will be able to take advantage of this whole situation, because he's just sitting in that group behind, nice and comfortably, not contributing anything at all to the pacemaking. But those two riders from Discovery Channel, Phil, have yet to sit up. Jose Ivan Gutierrez is working his heart out for Alejandro Valverde. Michael Rasmussen, I think, this afternoon is making a very nice operation, putting time between himself and everybody else.
Well, Popovic is the driving force. Contador hasn't been able to help since he come off the mountains. But Valverde is driving these others back into this race. He's got to, because he can't give them any leeway here. He's got to save seconds. The way this Tour is running right now, it might be won in Paris by seconds. Here they come now in the second group here of Cadel Evans. If they catch up with the two front runners, they might slow enough to let this group on. But Paul, well, not, he called you Phil then. We're not far from the climb, which is only a kilometre, but that could open up seconds.
That climb, the final climb up to the finish line, is 1.5 kilometres. The two riders now from Discovery Channel, Popovic on the left, Contador on the right, and now back in the group, the yellow jersey group. They're looking over their shoulders and say, oops, where is Levi Leipheimer? They need to accelerate to get back onto this group, but the group behind contains their own teammate, Levi Leipheimer, Christophe Moreau, and a lot of the other major favourites.
Now the yellow jersey needs to get to the front. He's reduced his enemies here. In time to move on. They've all come together and 5 kilometres to go. This is the leader though, and the clock starts now. How much has he got now? He's still got a lot of guts, this rider. He's out of the saddle again. This will be the biggest moment of his life, not just for him, for Colombia and for his team who've never been in the Tour de France.
Well, he's got to battle now. The only thing he's got to battle is himself, the inner energy that he can muster to keep himself going on the final downhill into the outskirts of Briançon. And I hope Philly's read the road book tonight, because the road book explains exactly how the run-in is over the last
5 riders chasing one man. They've made little impression on him in the last 5 kilometres. They've all come back together. Graham Moreau stays in this race for France, tagged on to the back. These are desperate moments. We're into Briançon. It is dangerous now. These corners dive and duck, and they switch back. They descend very steeply, and then it's a horrible sight when they come round the corner. The road just goes up to the heavens, to the finishing line. 2 kilometres to go for the chasers.
Well,
he's
it's
looking for
coming
one.
down. It's 50 seconds, 48 seconds, and he's now inside the streets of Briançon. But that wall you were talking about, Phil, when you see it in front of you, when you've led the race, that's it.
This is it. Wait for it. He sees the kilometre. He sees the wall. They can't take it away from him now, surely. He's got to find those climbing legs just one more time.
Well, they're stopping the cars behind the lone leader now, Phil. They're emptying the gap, so nobody is in there at all. I want to will this man on. I want him to win the race this afternoon. There's the French president witnessing a magical battle here in the Alps this afternoon. But this is the big move now.
This is Jaroslav Popovic has gone again.
Popovic is trying to set something up for his man Alberto Contador, and slipping backwards. There is Gutierrez. He'd done the work for Alejandro Valverde. Leipheimer is in a little bit of difficulty at the back here with the acceleration of his own teammates.
Well, they've got to get rid of all those motorbikes out of that gap now. They've got to give the kid a chance up front. Cadel Evans is making his throw for the finish. They're racing the leader. They're racing themselves, because they know on this climb they can open a gap of 10 or 15 seconds on one another. As now Moreau again continues to struggle. Saster's finished. This man is climbing to victory. He's got his rhythm again.
He's got his rhythm. He's just got to keep it going. It doesn't matter if he wins by a second or 2 seconds. That's not important for him. The important thing is to win for Colombia and to win for Team Barlow World. A little look over his shoulder. He knows how quickly they'll come back at him, but he's still got good climbing legs. He's still got those legs ticking over. We can't yet see the shadow of the group behind him. And surely, Phil, shortly, this man is going to smile. Surely he's going to get the win inside of the final kilometre. Evans now is seriously looking, and Rasmussen Rasmussen has taken over the pacemaking at the front.
Rasmussen, the yellow jersey's come through a day today. A few shocks, but still a very solid leader at the top. It looks as though Moreau might concede a couple of seconds by the finish. Evans is moving up on the shoulder of Rasmussen. This is going to be a very, very sharp finish today. We can't see the man in red. He must be very, very close to the finishing line now.
This is how difficult this final kilometre is, and there he is still in the lead. He's got a big advantage. He's 500 metres to go.
That's
they will
enough.
not catch him anymore, because once he's round this corner, he'll see the banner. There it is, just around the corner. Push this man home, because he's made an incredible move on the slopes of the Col de Galibier, and I think he's heard us, Phil, because he's finding a little bit more energy. He's pushing himself now. The pain is slowly starting to disappear from his thighs.
This is a rare Colombian victory. It is a definite first victory for Barlow World in their first Tour de France. It's a South African team. They've got a lot of foreign riders on it. But now this man who flew around everybody, having been 6th over the top of the Telegraph, wiped them out on the Galibier and somehow held them all off on what has been a tremendous race from the top of the Galibier to the top of this little climb in Briançon. There's time soon to zip up the jersey and salute the crowd. They won't stop him now. He has got the win. I can't think of his name. Juan Mauricio Sola Hernandez has won the stage.
Well, he's won the stage, but these men are fighting out for a few time bonuses. You can see on the front there, that is Cadel Evans. They're putting time between themselves and Christophe Moreau, who battled his way back into the race on the slopes of the Col de Galibier. But Alejandro Valverde is coming up for the second place. A few more time bonuses for him. This man is insatiable when it comes to getting places. He's going to get himself a 12-second time bonus on the line, maybe a bit more, because there are gaps appearing with his acceleration, while Cadel Evans is just hanging on.
There should be time gaps here as he comes up to the line. He's coming at around 38 seconds. Cadel Evans on his back wheel, little gap to Contador, and then comes Mayo, followed by the yellow jersey, and Moreau here has lost about 40 seconds overall on the day. And Vinokourov, well, the clock will start now, but could well have seen the elimination of Alexander Vinokourov today as a winner of the Tour de France.
Because this is a young guy by the name of Colbo, winner this year of the Pays Basque race early on in the season. He lost the lead, he fought to get it back again. He is also a new star for the future, but he today was working for Iban Mayo. And excuse me, Phil, but when you have a look at the average speed there, we've been over two big mountains at almost 39 kilometers an hour. Big congratulations for Jaroslav Popovic. He set it up for the team. He did the job for the team this afternoon, and that shows job
This
done.
guy's smiling. This guy's smiling. It's a day that they dreamt of. It's worked so well for them. When we get to see the overall classification night, it'll be good. Here comes Kashikin at the head of the field here. Chris Horner's in this group as well. And Alexander Vinokourov is somewhere in there, but I can't see him at the moment.
In the white helmet, just a little bit back there, 4th position with the yellow sunglasses on. That is Alexander Vinokourov. Oscar Pereiro is in this group as well. Vladimir Karpet, still a lot of big names are trying to keep themselves in contact in the Tour de France this afternoon. I take my hat off to Chris Horner, because he is riding his best ever Tour de France, and the reason for that is inspired by the performance of the man in front, Cadel Evans.
But take a look at the clock here. Despite all the infighting we have seen, the splitting and the bridging of the chase groups, they still continue to gain all the way from the Galibier, but they couldn't repair the damage. The last check we got, they were 3 minutes and 18. They're now swinging up to the finish. They've probably picked up another 20 seconds since that time check. So he's tried desperately to limit his losses. It is still a huge, huge loss. About 40 seconds to the winner, don't forget, to the yellow jersey group. So he's losing today about 3 minutes. That does not all well, although we still have the time trials and the Pyrenees to come.
But I think they will have to sit back now, Phil, and regard Andreas Kloden as the big leader for their team, because Kloden today, for me, never really looked under any difficulty at all. There's Christian van der Velde in this group as well. He's had a pretty impressive ride through the mountains, and of course Frank Schleck is in the group as well. But the American rider van der Velde, he's going to be a serious ally for Carlos Sastre when we go down to the Pyrenees. And let's not forget, we still have another mountain range to go over.
Well, as they race up towards the line, it's the clock which tells all of the story. Horner's even having to go to finish it off. 3:24, I think it would be, as they came over the line there. So in the end, they didn't close it in the last 10 kilometers. They lost the hand overall, and Contador might be the new white jersey. We'll find out all that as we go along. But here's the win. There was a moment I thought they were going to take him as we got towards the last kilometre, but he just put on those climbing legs again and he rode away from them, and it was a very, very nice result. Let's have a look then at the stage result. Mauricio Sola wins. Alessandro Valverde, a fighting second by this man who looked to be struggling and isn't. Cadel Evans came third in the end as well. Contador is fourth, new white leader there. Iban Mayo is fifth. He's supposed to have won today. Sixth was Michael Rasmussen, and seventh Levi Leipheimer, 42 seconds back. Other time gaps opening. Andreas Kloden 46, but he got in the move. He'll be the new leader of Astana now for sure. Looking further down, the best Frenchman is Moreau. He yo-yoed a bit today. Astaloza hung on in there from that original break to take 12th. Popovic came home smiling at a minute 32, and Gutierrez in that first break as well. 15th for him.
I think Team Discovery Channel had a great day out. Last year's runner-up Oscar Pereiro in second, 16th place there. Chris Horner, great ride for him. I think he's having a brilliant Tour de France this year in 17th, and just a little bit further down, 20th place for Alexander Vinokourov. But look at the time gap, 3 minutes and 24 seconds lost.
All right, well, Christian van der Velde also having a great tour, 25th today at 3:24. I think he might do well. We're still hunting down Levi Leipheimer and the actual overall result. The President of France here, Nicolas Sarkozy, goes down there to congratulate the winner now. Shakes hands first with Bernard. Breaking of protocol here. No, not at all. No, as Hernandez smiles for the crowd here. His first career Tour de France stage win. It's just about his first ever win. He did win the overall in the Tour of the Lorraine, I think.
Well, now we get a chance to meet the President of France. I think Sarkozy didn't want to climb up onto the top step of the podium then to respect protocol, congratulating the Colombian winner here this afternoon. And what a win for Colombia and Team Barlow World. Bernard Hinault bringing the rider over to be congratulated by everybody else.
His overall advantage down to 2:35 there over the favourites. Valverde now slots in second. Mayo is in third. Cadel Evans now up to fourth. And Alberto Contador, the new white jersey, 3:08.
Well, looking a little bit further down, Christophe Moreau lost himself a bit of time, but he's still best Frenchman in sixth place, 3:18 behind. Carlos Sastre hasn't really made a mistake or a move yet. He's in seventh. The big danger man to climb up higher, the great time trialist Andreas Kloden, and Levi Leipheimer now peeping inside the top 10 in ninth place, 3:53 behind.
A little bit further down there, Frank Schleck in 12th. And this Mauricio Sola, by the way, up to 14th overall now after that great ride, 6 minutes 29. Those gaps don't look big anymore. Alexander Vinokourov, I haven't seen him go by yet. We should be getting close to him now, though. The top 20 here, completed by Valjevic at 7:45. And so I'm not sure we can show you anymore at the moment. Let's go down because he's come out. Michael Rasmussen has stepped onto the podium here, waves to the crowd. Another day in the Maillot Jaune for him tomorrow. And the president to the right applauding. A good man today. He was under pressure the whole day. The beauty here of the far south of France, the Mediterranean, the old port at Marseille. Very, very warm conditions indeed. Temperatures set to soar today just short of 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and the riders have a very long ride today, nearly 230 kilometres. This is a new challenge for the riders in the Tour de France after the battles in the mountains, because the heat is with us and it'll stay with us right through until the finish. These are their days, and Tom Boonen is the man in the hot seat.
Well, Tom Boonen has consistently moved ahead in this condition. He's looking to take this green jersey all the way up to Paris. Like all the sprinters, he dragged his body right over the mountains, just as he had to do. And look at that, Phil. He's got a big lead ahead of Eric Zabel.
Yes, but he fears Eric Zabel because he fears Zabel, and it might be today, you know, can get points on the undulating stages where he can't. Robbie Hunter's there in third place. Hushov's had one stage win in fourth. He might come back into play well. Well, this is how it all panned out today. The riders being flagged away a few minutes late at Tallard because two of the teams couldn't get through the traffic and the police had to go out and bring them in. That was Barlow World and Sonia Duval. So they waited for them, of course. They're all underway. And then out on the first climb at Châteauneuf at Val Bonnat, after just 57 kilometres have been run, Marcus Burkhardt was off on a little solo breakaway here, just getting in ahead of Florencio and Popovic in the sprint.
Well, it was important, but when they came to the next sprint point, the sprint bonuses for the green jersey, Cedric Vasseur took maximum points there ahead of André Grifko and Paolo Bossoni. I think for Team Quickstep, they were trying to keep the points inside their camp.
But there was a development here. Burkhardt had been joined by 10 other riders. A breakaway now of 11, as Paul Sherwin said. There would be a breakaway today, and the latest time gap has just come to us, 10 minutes and 20 seconds. As we look out across the Bouches du Rhône here, this beautiful area which flattens out even more as we get down to the borders of the Mediterranean Sea at Marseille. Just look at that, 98 degrees. That's actually the finish line temperature at the moment. It might even be hotter out in the country itself. Very light winds, extremely hot today, and yet the average speed, an absolute cracker. They are running on the fastest expected time of arrival. They did 48 kilometers or 30 miles in the first hour, slightly less in the second hour. They're really going to wrap up this second longest stage of the race quite quickly, Paul.
Well, they are. I think, of course, Team Rabobank are very happy with the situation because they put a man into that breakaway. Juan Antonio Fletcher, a rider who in the past has had a stage victory in the Tour de France, and that takes a lot of pressure on them. Of course, for Team CSC, they've got their man in the breakaway, the man that is always looking for a move like this, Jens Voigt. I thought Jens and Team CSC might have taken a little bit of a back seat because they have, after all, done an awful lot of work, Phil, in the first part of the race, especially with Fabian Cancellara being the lead. But, you know, that's discounting the knowledge that Jens Voigt is Mr. Aggressive.
189 started the Tour, the same number as yesterday survived. They all finished yesterday, 171. 8 of the 21 teams are still carrying all 9 men towards the Pyrenees. And Jens Voigt, there he is on the far side of our picture. We put our heart rate monitors on Sergio Paulinho, Karlström, Christian Nice, Ralph Grabsch and Marcus Burkhardt. Good choice. He's in the breakaway and started the move. In fact, today he chased down, as did the field, an earlier move, and then somehow he went on it alone. They ignored him.
This is a very serious move. I think we probably won't see this breakaway because we won't see this breakaway again, Phil, because I think, you know, the big thing is it is a very long stage, very hot, as we've said, almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit on the open roads this afternoon. And all of the riders in the main field, I think, apart from Team Rabobank, are quite happy to have a rest day. They don't want to chase everything down because we had a seriously difficult race through the...
Oh, we've got this breakaway. It's consolidating now. It started with Marcus Burkhardt, 57 kilometers in. At 78 kilometers, he was joined by 10 more. 11 riders now well clear of the field at the moment. I'll quickly give you all of the names. Burkhardt joined by Jens Voigt, Juan Antonio Fletcher, Paolo Bassoni of Lampre, Patrice Algon, Crédit Agricole, Staff Shearlings, first time tour for Cofidis, Michael Albacini, Liquigas, along with Kruzinski, another first timer, Sandy Cassar, and a little bit further down, Cedric Vasseur and Andrei Grivko. And between all these 11 riders in the break, they have ridden more than 40 Tours de France between them. So I think we can say this one is a pretty experienced. Again, you see, Jens Voigt won somewhere. Now he's sat up and he's going to force them to go by him. And that's caused an attack by Patrice Algon. Algon has gone.
Algon has gone, as you said, but he's got a rider there from Liquigas right on his wheel, Sandy Cassar. This is a typical move by the French, and if one thing I could say to complain about the French is they will always chase down a Frenchman when he gets into a breakaway. That's probably why they don't win all that many races.
Well, Albacini, the Swiss rider, is the rider who's come up to the front here with him, and Algon and Sandy Cassar has got on as well. And now comes the counter moves from the group. Bassoni is trying to go across, followed by the other man from Liquigas, Kruzinski.
And the man making the big effort as well was your man in the orange jersey, Juan Antonio Fletcher. He knows that it's important to get himself across there, but these guys have got themselves a serious gap already, and Algon realizes a chance of winning for 3 riders is a lot better than winning from a group of 11.
Well, they're coming up towards the summit of the climb here, and this is where they've made the move. They've got to keep the pressure on. Algon is a very good rider on the small climbs, and he's worn the polka dot jersey because of it in the Tour de France. And the riders behind, I'm not so sure whether Fletcher's got it today. He's going to have a go now. He's going to try and reach that group at 1 kilometre to the summit.
Well, it's important for him. It looks like Jens Voigt has gone off the front and he's split away too. There's a panic on board, I think, the 11-man express here this afternoon because of that big acceleration. We're looking at about 1 kilometre to go to the summit of the climb, and the big casualty in this acceleration is Andrei Grivko here. He's really suffering. There's the split, and Fletcher has actually been completely and utterly caught out. Now is Staff Shearlings trying to pull them back into the fold. And Cassar here is really having a spot of bother, and you can see how difficult it is because Berghart's heart rate, Phil, had popped up to 179 beats a minute.
I'm not surprised. 3/4 of a kilometre to get to the top of the Bastide. This is Sandy Cassar. The public just recognised him and shouted his name. He's a man of the region, I think, Paul, Sandy Cassar, as he now closes down here on the back of Albacini. Patrice Algon, the tip of Laurent Jalabert, the former king of the mountains of the Tour de France today, to win the stage. And he might well do that because he's carrying the pressure of France. No stage wins yet. And we're on, in effect, the 11th day of the race.
Well, this is a little bit sad there for our man Juan Antonio Fletcher. He'd done the least work in the breakaway, but when that acceleration came, he certainly didn't have the ability to respond. This should be the group with Jens Voigt in it, and there he is over on the right-hand side. He was the man who started all of the aggression. Sitting there nice and comfortably is Cedric Vasseur. The little flick of the arm there by Marcus Berghardt said, come through, let's keep the pressure on. We've still got a chance of saving a stage here in the Tour. Over the summit of the climb then, it's going to be first place there for Algon. He's not worried about the points really, followed by Albacini, followed by Cassar.
And those three now have made the serious move, and as Jens Voigt goes off, he's going to try and nail them back before the next climb. Well, the ever-aggressive Jens Voigt refuses to take this line down. He needed time to recover from his earlier attack by himself. Algon, Albacini, Cassar over the top. Jens Voigt actually got a point in the King of the Mountains there because it's a third category climb. Doesn't matter to him. But he's worn the polka dot jersey for the day before now in the King of the Mountains over hills like this. Now it's a free-for-all down here now, and they've all got to help each other. There's no way they can dodge. You see that dangerous bottle lying in the road again? The riders clip that, they'll go down for sure. Well, Algon is hurting badly looking at his face, but he's going to give it another drive here. They can't relax now because they know that they're chasing behind. The split is on. 10 minutes, 22 seconds. Forget the peloton today, although we're going to have a good sprint for what will be for 12th place in the 5 of them. 3 Frenchmen, a German and a Swiss rider have slipped the group now and are heading for Marseille. As we race in now to Roquefort-le-Badoul, we're now looking at 5 riders. 1 Swiss rider, Albacini. The French riders are Cedric Vasseur, Sandy Cassar, Patrice Algon, and the ever-present German Jens Voigt. Slopes of the climb a moment ago. These are the leaders. The same men are all there. Jens Voigt, Cedric Vasseur, Patrice Algon, Albacini from Switzerland in the light lime green colours, and the white jersey of Sandy Cassar. And now this is do or die on today's stage of the Tour de France for the leaders. There goes the move, Paul. Algon, he has started the move. He's being chased by the Swiss rider Albacini and Voigt. Well, the one casualty is Cassar at the moment. This is the climb now. They've got just about 7 kilometres to the summit. Then they'll dive down to the Mediterranean, and immediately an attack has formed. Jens Voigt and Vasseur on the defensive here.
Well, this is the move where Algon had to make the move, Phil, because it's steepest at the bottom of the climb here. They're trying to get all of the motorbikes out of the move. The steepness has really worked against Jens Voigt there, but look how he battles. He won't give up. He's struggling, clawing his way back, centimetre by centimetre, to the slipstream of the 2 riders in front of him, Algon and the Swiss rider there, Albacini, and Jens Voigt has done it.
He's clawed his way back. Albacini's never won a stage in the Tour de France before, by the way. This is his 3rd tour, but certainly Algon has, and so too has Jens Voigt. And there is Algon right now. That's one attack that has failed. He's going to have to try it again. You don't get many second attempts.
Look at big Jens here. I know a lot of people will be shouting for this man to win the stage here this afternoon because he is a battler, he's a fighter. He's a man who goes out on stages like this when everybody else is tired, and Algon goes again. He knows he's got to get rid of Jens Voigt in a situation like this. He wants the victory, but he's having a hard time actually getting rid of Albacini, who's responded to all of these moves. And Cedric Vasseur, Phil, watch out for him because Vasseur just keeps riding himself back into this group.
Well, talking of riding back in here, Sandy Cassar is taking his chances to try and claw his way back in as well. The gap is there, but he might get back, as again it's Albacini launching a move this time.
Albacini looking over his shoulder. He hasn't got the gap there. Looks at the man there from France, Patrice Algon. And that's not a bad place to watch the finish of the Tour from.
Well, I presume we're somewhere near the airfield. It looks like the control tower here at Marseille Airfield, high up on the mountain. Very nice view indeed. I wonder if they can actually see what's going on here.
Actually, that was a lookout post for the big forest fires they have in this area, because this area is really hit by forest fires in the summer, and that's basically what that was. Look at Jens Voigt. He said, right, guys, you've attacked me 2 or 3 times. I'm going to come and set the tempo now. I'm going to hurt your legs. I'm going to set a tempo just so hard that you can't attack. And Cassar now comfortably back in with the fold, and we're looking over our shoulders. I know Jens Voigt, he's waiting. He knows that there's going to be another little move from Algon.
And Sandy Cassar's taken advantage of the shadow boxing and ridden back into this race. Might be a different man if he can get over the top of the climb. Michael Albacini, the Swiss rider in the breakaway, flicking his elbow there, saying to the next man, come on through and give me a hand. Well, thinking different tactics now. They're thinking how to outmaneuver, not help the other riders in the breakaway. Nasty little exposed climb this, as Algon goes left and Jens Voigt goes right. Vasseur doesn't know which wheel to follow, so he's chosen Algon, and Sandy Cassar has chosen Albacini's.
Well, big Jens there, he's just battling with this one. He wants to get to the top of this climb, and he's setting a tempo which is really uncomfortable for everybody else. He's discouraging them from making the move over the front, but Albacini says, I've still got a little bit in my legs. You won't get much help, I don't think, coming from Sandy Cassar, because he's struggled at the bottom of the climb, and big Jens is leaving a slight gap there, I think, to try and force Algon to come in front of him.
At the moment, it appears between Algon and Jens Voigt, but you don't know. You must always get rid of your rivals, because they have a strange habit of recovery when they're in sight of the finish. Take, for example, Sandy Cassar. He's been left behind. He just hasn't been able to go into the red zone like the other riders. But once he's back, things change. The body changes. You see the finish. The hills are finished. You've got to get rid of him, because here he's got to try and crack him. And Sandy Cassar, the other Frenchman's latched on. And now the gaps are forming. They're fully committed. 2.5 kilometers to go. Vasseur comes back on. We are 5 again.
Well, look at that. Albacini straight onto the wheel of Jens Voigt. He knows the strong man is. But I tell you what, Cedric Vasseur's getting himself ready for another little move here. He's in the ideal position to launch the surprise attack there from 5th place. He'll wait for a slowing and see if he can hit them really hard and get the gap.
Well, Albacini has melted into the group again, waiting to see who else is willing to attempt the sprint, because I think he packs the finish required today. 2 kilometers to go. Albacini swings wide and takes a good look at the riders. This could be a World Championship sprint final here on the velodrome now, as nobody knows quite what to do.
And what a fantastic run into the finish as well now, because it's pretty much straight all the way down towards the run-in. There's a couple of little roundabouts they have to negotiate, but from the final 2 kilometers, it's a straight crack at the line. It's straight from the final kilometer, straight from the final 2, but still, it's the cat and mouse tactics now. We're at 1.6 kilometers to go. Jens Voigt flicking his wrist, asking somebody to come by. Well, I'm sorry, Jens, at this stage of the game, nobody's interested in working anymore. They're all just trying to find the wheel of the man they want to follow in the sprint.
Vasseur won't sit there too long. We've got to be careful now. We're getting into 1.4 kilometers. They're looking for the red kite, which is the 1,000 meters to go. Whoever opens the sprint will surely lose the race, and they know that. Albacini wants the second wheel of whoever is in front, because he looks like the sprinter today. There it is, the bridge over the road, and look at that for a sprinter's finish. 1 kilometer. As far as you can see, the finishing line awaits.
Well, Jens Voigt now is going to be forced to lead out the sprint. Albacini knows who's the strongest man in the race. He wants Jens Voigt's wheel for the lead out. The Frenchmen lined up in 3rd, 4th and 5th place. They're dreaming for glory for France. And once again, they seem to be more worried about who's going to be the first Frenchman, because Cassar looks over his shoulder to see Algon. Vasseur is sitting pretty there in 5th place, but Jens Voigt, you watch him when he starts to wind up the sprint, because he is the big powerhouse of this breakaway.
And this could be a slow motion sprint here now. They've thrown everything at one another. That hasn't worked. Now it's down to a pure sprint. Albacini, the way he's riding, you see, tight on the right barrier. They can only pass him on the left. He knows that. He's letting Jens Voigt stay there at the front. The 3 Frenchmen have gone off on the right together.
Well, I think you're right. You know, Albacini seems to be the man who's got the explosive finish, but they're going to back it off. They've been away for so long. It's got to be a short sprint. They've got to wait. They're inside of 400 meters to go, and still they haven't started.
That's a short
Voigt
sprint.
is very short. They haven't even started yet, but look at the Frenchman starting to get out of the saddle. Voigt is looking now to start winding it up.
Algan, he's missed Vasseur up the other side. Vasseur switched, and everybody is watching Algan. Now he's ripped away on the left of the picture, Vasseur. Albacini's come through the middle here now, taking on Cassar. He's got to reach Vasseur, and I don't think he's got it. This is going to be a very tight finish, and Vasseur made the move. Albacini looked at Algan, and Vasseur went up the inside.
Well, that's the second stage victory for Cedric Vasseur. Their great win for Team Quick-Step. It was a brilliant move by them, and he waited till the last possible moment, and he went right up through the barriers. These are the next two riders on the road. This is Staff Shearlings from Team Cofidis and Paolo Bassoni. This should really be a formality for the little Italian sprinter there, because he really has got a great turn of speed. But Staff Shearlings wants this quite dramatically, but Bassoni, I think, has given up the ghost.
He tried, but he sat up. Shearling says, no, it's mine today. At least Shearling rides for a French team, and Bassoni coming in there in 6th place. But what a terrific win that was, and there's the victory margin. And France got 1st and 2nd at the end of the day. You see, Cassar 2nd, dropped on the climbs. If you don't get rid of them, they bite back.
Well, look at that. Algon getting 4th, and poor old Jens Voigt, the strong man of the breakaway, getting 5th place over the line. Look at this move here. You see Vasseur, he waited. He saw the open of the gap there, the opening of the door, and he got them on the jump, and that was the big surprise as he goes down the barriers there. He knows the only way they can pass him is on the right-hand side. This was a do-or-dive move. Cassar coming back just a little bit too late, dies alongside him, can't do it.
So he sits up and salutes the crowd. He last won, the only other time he's won in the Tour de France, 1997. Boy, a 10-year margin, and he's back again.
Well, it's a great win by this man, and this win is going to be very popular in the north of France. A lot of people have been asking Phil about the speeds of the sprints. Well, that was not a fast sprinter compared to some of the sprinters, of course, like Tom Boonen, but it was still 62 kilometers an hour, that sprint by this man, Cedric Vasseur.
Fabulous. The 3rd win for Quick-Step in this. 2 on the inside. This is a bit quicker than the other finish, isn't it? As they now head up. And now Hushoff is trying to get through as well here now. This is going to be a battle of Hushoff, Bonen, Zabel and Hunter. And they're all behind Stegman saying, when is he going to move over and free us up for the sprint? As Stegman's now can't go much further here now as Hushoff grits his teeth. Look at the face of Zabel. Now Zabel kicks. And just behind him is Hunter. Hunter goes on the right. This is Sebastian Chavanel who's coming through here, and they're not going to get over him. Bonen is through on the inside. I'm not sure, Paul. Hunter, what do you reckon?
No, they were so close together. There were 5 riders in a line across the road. You had Eric Zabel and Robbie Hunter over on the right-hand side. Boonen panicking a little bit up on the inside there. They all threw their bikes at the line at almost the same time. That was an incredible finish, and hard to believe it was for 12th place and only 14 points. Let's have a look. Tom Boonen was in the ideal position here, but all of a sudden, watch this acceleration. This is a nice young move here by Sebastian Chavanel, a young rider, then all of a sudden, bit of panic. Tom Boonen really should have come up through the inside. Robbie Hunter there in the red is alongside him. At this point, Boonen is blocked in. He hasn't got anywhere to go. Look at Zabel. He's got to go right the way round through the long side. And on the line, in fact, you can see that Boonen, although he didn't beat Chavanel, he beat Hunter and Zabel, and that's important for Tom Boonen, and he's not really happy.
No, all the sprinters that are left in the race, neither one. Ventosa was the guy from in the yellow there, from Sonia Duval. But meanwhile, this is the view from the other end. At least Quick-Step won this sprint. Quick-Step won this sprint for Cedric Vasseur, and he won it well. Albacini was watching the move of Algon, and I think Vasseur saw that and took the gap on the inside. See the young lady step up and meet Cedric Vasseur, the first French stage winner of this year's Tour de France.
Well, what I find amazing in this Tour de France of rejuvenation, with so many young riders participating, it's the old boys that are actually doing rather well, because in August, Cedric Vasseur, with his win today, Phil, is going to turn 37 years of age.
But into retirement, this will be his last Tour de France. You probably heard him say it a little bit earlier when he was interviewed. And we're looking now at the crowd applauding here. A well-taken win. Now, he wasn't the favourite of that breakaway, but he certainly was the shrewdest. He saw the door open and he went through that gap on the inside, and he just got that quick jump on them. It sorted the problem.
Well covered there as well. But this man now must turn his mind around to get through the next few hot days in the southern part of France, Phil, because his nemesis is about to loom on the horizon, and that is the individual time trial.